anybody in the soccer community does that, and yeah, it's kind of weird that like my friend's like, Dave Clark, what beer can I get you? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what, Mom?
Yeah, just like standing still,
Yeah.
just static. Yeah, yeah. It's
All
true.
right, and
It's
yeah,
true.
I just I know you by your nickname mainly because I'm a dork for dragons, but people call you the Dragon because you play for Wales. They're the Dragons. You're a dragon. What do you think about that nickname? Let's just start off with that.
I love it. Who doesn't like dragons? Dragons are like such a cool creature. So I am happy with dragon. I'll accept it. I'll embrace it. It's great.
Excellent. Some people are, when you get the playful nickname, I had like Ozzy Alonso went by the Honey Badger
Yes.
for a while, and
I
we had to
remember that.
explain to him what that
What
meant.
it was. Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh yes,
Okay.
yes." You've been with the Seattle Reign for a few years now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's roll back. Oftentimes, when somebody joins us, we ask them to start with like their soccer story.
Okay.
And your soccer story it starts well before the Reign.
Mm-hmm.
What got you into soccer from like when you were a kid?
It's funny. I get asked this question a lot, and when I explain it, it's real funny and quite ironic. So I only ever started out playing soccer, because it will never stick. It'll never be soccer.
That's
to me,
okay. We don't
ever.
care what.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So it was summer back home when I was a kid. I was 7, and I have a huge family. I have 3 sisters, 2 brothers. And my oldest sister wanted to go to football camp. And the ironic thing is it was a Meerham football camp that obviously I knew nothing about at that point. But it is quite ironic now that I'm settled here. And I didn't want to go at all. I wanted to go like play soft play or something stupid. But my mother literally forced me to go because it was summer holidays and she has 6 kids and she has to try and deal with who wants to go to what activities at that point. So literally it was like you either go to the football camp or you stay at home all day. So I was like, fine, like I'll go to the football camp. Ended up going, fall in love. From that day onwards, didn't stop, didn't look back, just fell in love.
Was there
Let's take a time out.
We're going to take a short little break if you're listening live, which is probably not happening, which is why you're
Now we're
pointing at me
live.
like
Now we're live.
he's pointing at me like I'm supposed to do that
Go.
NPR-ish open again. That's not going to happen. This is episode 212, Monday with Jess Fishlock
So
of the Seattle Reign.
before we came back to Live Land, you guys were discussing how Jess got into soccer in the first place, and that's where we are.
At what point in that did you think, I can do this as a life rather than a hobby?
Yeah. So I think, it's 7. I mean, what do you really know about anything at 7? So I was just
I'm
playing
42.
it.
I don't.
It's true. I still know nothing about nothing. But all I knew at that point was that soccer was it was so fun. And it was what I, just wanted to go to at all times of the weekend or after school. But I think for me, the decision to pursue it as a career was when I was like 15. And I had a choice back home. The school system works real different. And, I had a choice, and the choice was, do I go from high school to college? So we go high school, you go to 16. Then you go college, which is 16 to 18. And then you go university, which is that, however long your degree is, to be a doctor or a physio or whatever. And school just wasn't for me. It wasn't that I wasn't good at it. I just, it bored the hell out of me. It just wasn't for me at all. So I had to make a choice at that point. And at that age, I was in the U19 national team, and we were flying everywhere. And, I had to try and support everything. So I just quit school and went and got a full-time job to support and to fund my career. And at that point, I think my decision was made that this was the route I was going to go down and throw everything into it and put all my eggs in one basket, as they say, and I guess just hope for the best.
And over the years between that, the money and ability to make it a career has shifted pretty dramatically. I would think. Like,
oh yeah, well, until
you said that you were working to support yourself.
I was working 40 hours a week and playing for my national team and trying to play for my club at that point. So I would be in work at 7 till 4, then have to go and train, then have to do gym, then have to get up the next day and do the same thing whilst fly and play for my country. But that's what you had to do. Like, that was just what life was. It was, some people back home still do that because that's how back home it's not. For Wales anyway, it's the amount of players on my national team at Wales who still work right now is insane.
I'm going to use this to lead into it,
Of course.
but now, when you were growing up, you probably didn't have a women's soccer player that you looked to as your hero. You looked to a man.
Yeah.
Now, particularly with maybe the success of like the women's Euros, we talked a little bit about that before the show. There might be a time, or it might be you, where a young girl in Wales can look and see there's a future in soccer for them. Yeah,
100%. I think now you don't have to worry about that. I think now there is viability with the fact that you can be a professional women's soccer player, and that is a thing, and you have to work to get it, obviously. But I think kids now growing up all over the world, or the majority of the world, know that women's soccer exists.
And you've played in a few of those leagues.
Yes.
Australia, obviously, and Seattle at the same time. It might be an American flaw, but we like to think of the NWSL as like the premier soccer league. But there's so many other leagues out there that are doing great things for the game.
100%.
Germany, Brazil, Mexico just started their own version this season coming up. Australia. What's it mean to you to see the growth of the game explode beyond 5 years ago? 5 years ago, the U.S. didn't even have a league. Because the start and stop. And Germany and France, England and Sweden and Norway were basically it then.
Yeah. I think, for me, I think it's such a good thing right now that there are so many leagues all over the world that are really successful and that are producing very good players. And I feel right now that the situation with women's football is, wherever you were to go, whatever you want from the game, there's a league that will give you that. And for me, I think the NWSL is a league that is so competitive for the best players in the world. Because when you want to be the best player, you want to be challenged week in, week out. And that's what makes the best the best. And the NWSL is that league that will make you have to work week in, week out. That is just a fact. The French league is a great league for 2 teams, but it's not a very competitive league. So, if you want to go and win things, you would probably go to Lyon or PSG because that's what they will do. But the league is not that strong, and I think that's why, from an international perspective, France always really fail at the last hurdle because they don't get competitive games week in, week out. And I think wherever you go, there's a league that will provide certain players with what they want. And for that to happen, it's the same as a men's league, right? Leagues filter leagues. It's the way that it is. The Dutch league filters the Premier League. The Premier League filters the Spanish league. The French league filters the English league. That's just the way that they work. Leagues are there in the men's game to provide players with what they need at that time. And the women's league now, or the women's game, now has that in leagues, which for me I think is huge.
What does Australia provide for you that's different than what the Seattle ranking? Because you do, for those that are listening that don't know, Jess goes to Australia during our winter,
Yeah.
where she is both a coach and a player. For Melbourne City, which is part of City Football Group, the global power with a presence in MLS, both the Australian men's and women's, England, China, a lot of presence around the world. What does Australia offer you that's different from the Rain? What does Melbourne City offer you?
Well, I think for one, it's in our off season. I mean, if it wasn't in our off season, I probably wouldn't go there. And two, I think what the City Group is fantastic at, and what their franchise is fantastic at, is the way that they treat the women, or the way that their franchises are built. You know, they literally have everything. You look at Man City, at New York City, Man City women, and Melbourne City women. They're parallel with the men, with what they have, and how they can use that, you know. And for me, it's nice to have that feeling and experience that, you know, you're going into a locker room that is a very nice locker room. You have an area where you can do pre-activation that is your area. You have an ice tub, you have a hot bath, you have your own training fields and a nice and grass and are looked after daily, and you have nice kit that, you know, you just get treated like a professional athlete, which I think in the women's game is still something that we're striving for all over the world. Is, yes, there's equal pay and that stuff that is completely separate, because women's football is nowhere near at the point where you can expect us to demand the same amount of money that the men get, because from a revenue perspective we just don't get that much money, which is business, it's math. But that doesn't mean that we can't get treated right. We can't get treated equally like human beings, like, you know, our medical and our flights and our hotels, and just the simple things that should be normal and should be right, and a human rights almost perspective is we don't get that. And that's something that we should fight for, and that's something that the City Group absolutely provides, like just off the bat. That's what they provide. And then on top of that, then for me what that means is they give you everything that you could possibly need to be the best that you can possibly be. And then it's up to you what you want to do with that. If you don't want to use that to the best of your ability, then that's your call. But if you do want to use it to your best of your ability, what it does in those 3 months is make sure that I'm trained right, I'm fit, I'm healthy, for when I come back to the Rain to be the best that I can possibly be, which is ultimately what I want at all times. So it's a very unique situation, but it is probably one of the best situations that any player could probably have from a 12-month period.
For you, one of those best that you can be is coaching.
Yes.
That's been something that you transitioned to within the last kind of 2 or 3 years, where you were an assistant and a player at the same time, and then you even took the step up to be the coach.
Yeah.
Is that a transition to your future?
Yeah.
Like you see, just straight up yes.
Straight up, yeah. I'm on my A license now, that I'm doing like an international A license with the Welsh Association. And once you kind of get your A, you know, you're pretty much, you know, you only need the pro then, but you can't ever really do the pro until you've got years of coaching experience. So, you know, I'm setting myself up to be able to make the transition really well and hopefully pretty fast. And like you said, City Group helps me with that. The Rain helped me with that. I have the best mentors that I could possibly have. And so, like I said, it's a really good situation. I'm extremely lucky and fortunate to be in that situation. And I just appreciate that when I go out there. And plus, it's Australia. I mean, who doesn't enjoy Australia?
What's your favorite part of Melbourne, not soccer related?
Ooh, great question. You know what? They do the best brunches ever.
Brunch.
Wow.
Their brunches.
That is big talk.
This
Yeah.
group is now like booking flights because they're like, we'll fly for brunch. Yeah.
I'm telling you now, their brunches, you can't compete with them. They're the best. Their food is so good, but they specialize in brunch, like specifically like brunch.
Is it like a 2 huge meals kind of like?
No, not
Or
necessarily.
is it a
It's just
big
a little
brunch, or-
bit different. It's different food, really. But it's real good. It's real good.
Do you have a favorite meal? That let's go even this way. Let's compare your favorite meal back home in Wales.
Ooh, Sunday roast.
Sunday roast,
Yeah.
which is kind of a late afternoon and a family dinner. The whole family gets together, sits down. It's a meal that takes hours.
Hours.
And
Hours.
you said you come from a pretty big family.
Oh, yeah.
And you all get together for
Every
it.
Sunday.
Your favorite meal in Seattle?
You know, Seattle for me does actually really good Thai food. I love Thai food. But my host family actually cooked me my breakfast of champions, which for me is my best meal, for sure.
The host family?
My host
what
family.
they cook? Is that
With the kids.
heavy bacon or like
It's bacon and eggs and
Eggs.
pancakes. For
bacon,
sure.
eggs, and pancakes?
And they have the best coffee too. I don't know what it is, but it's great.
You mentioned host families. That's part of the reality of the NWSL for probably 90% of the players or
Yeah,
so?
I don't know.
Maybe
like
80?
mine was I actually rented a place when I came here the first year. I lived with a couple of the players, but like I said, I'm from a big family, right? And I'm from a very family-orientated background where there's always someone around. There's always people coming in and out of the house. And so it just kind of was, it didn't work for me. Like living with people from the team it's very difficult, you know. If you have a bad day of training and you take it home with you, it then rolls on.
I was
one
in the
day,
Army. I understand that.
Yeah.
Like, you're with the same people that...
Yeah. So then, you know, when I had a choice then of whether I wanted to live by myself or with the host family, I think the host family for me is just a fit, you know, and I got so lucky with my host family. I've been with them now for 4 years. They're not a host family anymore. Like, they are my family, like, it's fact.
We've talked to several Sounders Academy players who say the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they're like, they have a second mom and dad now.
100%.
And
100%.
it's interesting that soccer
Can do that.
does that. Like,
Yeah.
the bonds that develop through this game. It's kind of... I want to roll back a little bit
of course.
because we talked about you growing up having different idols, and now children in Wales can look up to yourself. But throughout Europe, we talked a lot about this. Is this women's Euros
Yeah.
showed both continents because we were able to get it here finally.
Yeah.
Live on ESPN for the final and on ESPN3, which for women's soccer, the streaming culture is really where it's at because they've had nowhere else to get the game.
100%, yeah.
You got to experience that because you were, for most of the Euros, you were in that recovery phase because you had a recent injury. What was it like to watch this Euros compared to other women's Euros that you've experienced in the past?
You know, like I said earlier, I felt this one was different than the rest. I felt that the expansion that the UEFA made it to 16 teams and not 12 kind of took it out of the phase of... I don't want to say like a Mickey Mouse tournament because that's disrespectful, and I don't mean it disrespectful at all, but having a major tournament with 12 teams, I don't think it's not right, because you could go through a group stage and not win a game and get to a semi-final, which for me I don't understand that. So when they made it bigger into 16 teams, I felt then that we were really onto then a competitive UEFA Women's Euros where any team could beat any team, and they were fighting then to get out of their group. Whereas previously you probably knew that you needed a point, and
Right.
you actually still might get out of your group
With 1 point.
with 1 point. Whereas now you're kind of like fighting for like 3 or 4 to get out of your group.
You got to get a win.
You got to get a win. You got to
Basically.
get a win, which changes the dynamics of how you're going to play and how you're going to set up and who's going to do what. And so, I felt that as the Euros went on, I actually felt that that's what it looked like. That teams were fighting, teams were beating teams that they shouldn't be beating, and teams were losing games that you wouldn't have thought that they were going to lose or they were going to struggle in. And it actually, for me, became the biggest breakthrough tournament for a long, long, long time. And arguably the best final tournament that I think the women's game has seen for a very long time.
Well, I mean, as somebody who watched the Sounders win, what if I was a neutral would have been a really boring game. But I'm not a neutral, so
Yeah.
it was awesome.
Yeah.
That's how finals go so
Yeah.
often. I mean, we've seen it in World Cups where it's a 0-0 or a 1-0 with,
Yeah.
one incredible
true.
moment. Instead, this was the women's tournament. The final shifted momentum.
Yeah.
6 goals, right?
Yeah, 4-2.
4-2. Yeah.
And it wasn't traditional powers
No.
that made it to the final, which is really. I don't want to talk so much about the development of the women's game because you probably talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
But from watching it develop, watching the tournament develop, seeing teams like Sweden and Germany and France, and you're like, oh, they didn't make the final.
No.
And then that's
Well, they
new.
didn't even make the semi-final.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's huge. But, if you follow women's football, you'd always say Germany is going through a huge transition, very much like the U.S. national team. So you kind of would go, oh, I don't know, but you would never knock them out. Like, you would never go, Germany are not going to do this, and you'd never go, the U.S. are not going to do this, because history tells you somehow they grind it out. They get it done. That's what they do. But, they couldn't do that this time around. And I think it's interesting now to see what happens to them, what happens to France, what happens to England, what happens to Sweden, because they're all going through now. It's another 4 years to the Euros, 2 years to a World Cup. And for Europe, getting to a World Cup is very difficult because there's not that many spaces at all compared to, all the other confederations
We
around
can kind
the
of,
world.
the U.S. World Cup qualification for the women is not the question. The question for the women is what do they do at the World Cup?
Exactly, because your qualification is not easy, but it's not soul-destroying difficult. Whereas getting in from Europe is very, very difficult because there's like 5 spaces or like 7 spaces from a tournament that we've just seen at 16 teams that produced utter class, really.
7 or 8 teams that look like they belong
Oh,
in a Women's World Cup.
100%.
And-
More than that. You'd get more than that.
You've gone through those trials, the World Cup
The
qualification
struggle.
process.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know what it's like. There have been teams in the past could count on a core of a few great players.
100%.
But in Europe, you need to be a team now.
Oh, 100%.
And
You need
that's
to be
major
more than
transition.
a team. You need to have everything to be successful now. It's not okay to just be fit because everyone's fit. It's not okay to just be able to play football because everyone can play football. It's, you have to be able to be technically good, tactically good, fit, and smart. In Europe now, that's what you need because that's what Euros have just shown. Because that's what the final was all about.
And that's what you need for, if you're the U.S. women, you need that in the World Cup, you need that in the Olympics, the 2
Yeah.
major events that they participate in, because there isn't a women's Gold Cup. There are the manufactured tournaments, the Tournament of Nations, where it's
Yeah.
invite the three best that aren't at the Euros to see
Yeah.
what you can to get that training,
Yeah.
the refinement.
But I mean, they're never going to be the same because you can't manufacture competitive games. Like the Tournament of Nations is always going to be a friendly tournament. You know, Japan are always going to basically take a U20 team, you know, and the US are going to try things because they're in transition, you know, and Brazil too are trying to figure out how they're going to look at the World
After
Cup.
Marta.
Yeah.
Marta.
The
Yeah.
Exactly.
post-Marta
Yeah.
Brazil.
You know, so friendly tournaments for me are like, you know, like the Cyprus and the Algarve. They're like,
Yeah.
okay, this is great because we can get some games, but you will never, ever, ever replicate competitive tournaments with friendlies. It doesn't happen because in a friendlies you can go, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll make this sub, or we'll do this, and we'll try this, and we'll try that. You won't do that at a competitive game. You just won't.
Do you think that this Women's Euros is basically the end of those friendlies or those manufactured tournaments being the third event in the women's cycle?
Yeah, look, they're not.
I mean, they still serve their purpose,
They do.
particularly for North America, Canada, and the United States.
Yeah, exactly.
They're
because
not going to
they
get
don't
competition
have
from.
because they don't have a Euros.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, they have the Olympics, which is fine, but that's straight after the World Cup. So then they have 3 years. You know. So what are they going to do in 3 years? Whereas our cycle goes Euros, World Cup, 2 years between each, and then we have the friendly tournament, the Algarve or the Cyprus Cup, that sits in the middle at the beginning of each year. So it's perfect. You know, you go from one cycle to another cycle where you have competitive games. So, for example, we just finished our Euro cycle in October last year. Then we go to Cyprus and do a week-long friendly tournament, which is fine, but I mean, it's just a friendly tournament. It's nothing crazy. And then now already in September, we already start our World Cup campaign. So we have competitive games all the time. All the time. So our competitive games will go September all the way round until next November. And then the World Cup's in the summer. And in February, we have a Cyprus Cup.
Do you kind of wish the U.S. had some of that stress on their players? Like,
I think it would be better. I think it's better than just having the friendly tournaments that you can just, okay, you get everybody together and then you...
Like the men's side did the Copa America unified through, if something like that for the women, because when you get a Brazil with the U.S., with Canada, then you start getting 3 quality teams, throw in a Mexico and an Argentina and a Colombia who did surprisingly well at the Women's World Cup, but their style was exciting. Is that something that you think that like CONCACAF and CONMEBOL need to explore?
I think it's just different because I understand why they do their friendly tournaments because that's their qualifying setup. Their qualifying setup is a tournament, right? Where they just play each other in a tournament, mini tournament type thing. Winner goes through. Whereas ours is over 18 months, where you have to, you know, in September, we have to fly to Kazakhstan for one game, and then we fly home. And then in October, we fly to Russia, and then we play Kazakhstan at home.
How are your frequent flyer miles? Because
let
you're
me tell
Australia,
ya.
Seattle, Wales, Kazakhstan.
Let me tell you. So the qualifying situation is just so different, which is why it's, you know, it's hard for us to understand the little mini tournaments that happen all the time. So, for example, the Tournament of Nations, I don't understand it. Like, I'm from the UK, the league is on, you don't see England men's team go into a mini tournament in the middle of the Premier League. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, we deal with that on both versions.
Exactly. But it's because the qualifying's different. So the men's qualifying for CONCACAF is the same, I'm assuming. There's a mini tournament.
By the time the U.S. participates, it's down to the hex with the 6 teams.
Yeah.
Because U.S. and Mexico get an automatic bye into the finals.
Oh, what a life.
They don't have to go through qualifying. Like Suriname will
I
play
got you. I got you.
They play out 3 years prior to the World Cup, and the U.S. plays like 14 months out.
It's just different, which is great and which is fine, but
When
it
you-
is.
You watch the Tournament of Nations. One of the, because you were doing rehab at the time, you basically got to watch a lot of soccer.
I did.
And
It was great.
the world flooded you with soccer because
It
you
did.
got the Euros.
It
in
was
the
all the
morning,
time, yeah.
The rehab and then Tournament of Nations at night.
Exactly.
When you watch the Tournament of Nations with Pino,
Yeah.
your teammate, and so many of the people you're competing with, do you watch that for entertainment? Do you watch that for scouting? Like, how do you approach the Tournament of Nations?
I watch it as a fan.
Okay.
She
I want-
watches to see goal celebrations that she can replicate later.
Yeah, exactly. No, I watch it as a fan. I'm a huge USA fan. I want them to do well, like always, and like you say, I know some of the girls. I play with them. I play against them. I know what their strengths are, and I want them to be successful when they play for their national team. And I do support the USA, which is really weird because I never thought that I would do that because I'm Welsh. But I very much do. Like when Pino, the Brazil game, I was like screaming, and my host family kids were like, "What is going on?" Because I'm in the kitchen and screaming when Pino scores that left-footed volley that she just does, which is insane. But she does it all the time. I should get used to it. Like, I know it all the time for the last 5 years, but every time it happens, it still sends me into a frenzy. But I'm a fan. Like, I'm just a normal fan. I want them to win.
Just a normal fan.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Pino is possibly having her best year
Yeah.
of her life as a teammate.
Yeah.
When you're playing alongside somebody who
Is in form.
is doing that, do you ever get tempted to pass her the ball and just watch? Or do you know that, or does it, her form force you to put in
I get you.
even more effort?
No, I think when you know Pino is going to do Pino things, you just give her the ball as much as you possibly can. And two, we train with her. We know what she's going to do. And we know where she needs us at that point and when she needs us and when she's okay on her own. And there's moments when she's great on her own and there's moments when she's great with the rest of the team. So right now, we know she's in the form of her life, which is great for us. And we have to respect that and understand what she needs and when she needs it. And I think that we do that really well, and I think she thrives off what we give her and what we allow her to do and give her the freedom that she so rightly deserves because of the type of player that she is. And probably freedom that she doesn't get so much at the national team that she should probably get a little bit more. And I think we saw in the Tournament of Nations as to why she should probably have that little bit of freedom, and she should probably be the player right now that they should build around. And for us, she gets that because we know what she's capable of, and we've known that since year one when she came back for a couple of games, and year two then when she committed to what we were trying to do. We've known that all along. It's just how with Pino, it's just how to get her fit and healthy, and when she's fit and healthy, there is no question of her ability at all.
You've had with the national team, with your own national team, you get kind of that Pino role where they focus on you.
I mean, I can't do Pino things.
Well,
but
do Fishlock things.
I do Fishlock things, yeah. That was a good one. Well done.
Just Fishlock things is a new Tumblr. We're going to make that happen. So while we're talking about Wales, so you are the most capped Welsh player
Correct.
of all players,
Of all players.
which is wonderful. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
That's super fun. Talk to us about, because I think we pay attention a lot to American players and like what they do because that's what we see. Talk to us about what it's like to play for Wales and, maybe what you see that might be just different, whether it's what training is like that seems like it might be different or just how people pay attention to the Welsh national team, just like things that you think are interesting and different that maybe folks wouldn't know about.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it's quite similar a little bit with the fact that football isn't the Welsh sport. Rugby is.
Rugby is, yeah.
So for years, football as a sport has been fighting for visibility and support just as a sport, male and female.
Sure.
And we had a huge breakthrough with that when the men went through to the Euros last year maybe, or the year before that. No, last year it was. And they were hugely successful. And actually, I think, America really took Wales in their heart in the Euros because they were the underdog and they were fighting. And between Wales and Iceland, it was a huge thing. But for me, being from Wales, it's tiny. It's like this small little thing that is attached to England, which we hate.
That's accurate.
We do. We hate it. And, we really want to be with our friends, who are the Scots and the Irish, but we can't because England are right in the middle and they annoy all of us. But we are this small country, but we are extremely passionate and we are extremely supportive with each other. And we're nice people. Because I guess we're so small and everybody knows everybody and everyone knows everybody's business and everyone knows everybody's mother. So you have to be nice, otherwise your mother finds out everything that you're doing. So that's the background of Welsh people, really. So then when it comes to sports, there's so much passion in it that it's quite special. It's really different to I guess the bigger nations, because literally, you would see Bale or Sam Warburton, who's the equivalent of Bale from the rugby perspective. You'd see him walking down the street at the butcher's, just like normal, regular folk. That's just who we are.
Yeah.
And, I guess there's not that much visibility from the women's game. There's not that much support from our association. But what I will say is over the last couple of years, it's got a lot better.
Okay.
And we just had a new manager who took us through a transitional period. But we're coming, I hope, towards the end of that transitional period. So this campaign should be a great one. And I think we'll get better support. I mean, when I played my 100th cap, for example, there was a lot of support. And I was extremely, thankful for that, really, because it was a big moment for the country. Sure. I think it was extremely even bigger because that record will always be held by a woman, which I think won't happen in many associations. That record would be held by a woman. I think Wales will be, quite frankly, one of the first ones, if not one of the everlasting countries. And the support for that was huge. And, our team did it well and the association did it well. And so I think this campaign now, especially after the Euros, will be the breakthrough campaign for us. I just hope that we can do well in it, to be honest.
When you're at events, I mean, with national team events, I assume that you and Gareth Bale are at events together once in a while.
Mm.
What's it like interacting with him?
He's huge. Like huge. Like I have to go like this. He's huge, but he's lovely. He's Welsh. We're all lovely. No, he is a nice guy. Aaron Ramsey is a lovely guy. We stayed with them when they were preparing for the Euros. We were preparing for a game of our campaign, and we were staying at the same hotel. And they were lovely, you know. The coach is lovely, is very interactive. You know, they're just supportive. They are supportive, and we do our award ceremonies together. And it's good fun. It's great fun.
You can keep going. You've got questions. I've got another one though, but
Wales with their unique relationship in FIFA. Do you ever the unified team concept? Are there
Team
are
GB?
Are there days when you want it and days when you don't? Like, if they had it, you and Kim would play national team soccer together.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
I miss Kim. That would be fun.
We miss Kim too.
we were asked
Yeah.
that in the chat,
Yeah,
so I'm glad
Ah.
we could
It was
derail for a
literally
second
just-
here.
Kim Little? Question mark.
Too soon.
Yeah, everybody.
Too soon.
No, look, I think from the Team GB perspective, I think it's a FIFA problem more than anything. I think they really cause a problem because they won't put in right in that if we do a Team GB, that our individual statuses are safe.
They would essentially remove.
So
the
basically, what
influence
the
of
risk
Wales and
is
Scotland.
that all of the four nations then will forever be together,
Yeah.
which is not worth it. From the Welsh perspective, especially now that they're qualifying for tournaments, you know, the only country that are probably fine with that
North-
is the English, because they can do whatever they want anyway. So I
So
mean,
this is
they
how
don't
you
care.
sell a friendly tournament: is you have Team GB, and they just go womp on people.
Yeah.
in
Because they cherry
only in a
pick
friendly
all-
tournament.
I mean, we would be great. Team GB would be a fantastic team, and no doubt a team that would, I think, you know, really push for gold in the World Cup, in the Olympics, and win the World Cup and all that stuff. And I can appreciate that, and it would be great. But do I want to lose Wales for that? Not a chance. I just wouldn't.
There's a pride in being Welsh.
There's a huge pride in being Welsh. Yeah. A pride in being Welsh that cannot kind of be bought by winning a tournament. You know? You want to get to those tournaments with your country. That's what you want to do. And when you do that, then you know that it's something special. You know, I'm not saying that getting there with a Team GB wouldn't be special. Of course it would. But for me, it's not worth the risk if your country is then told that your identity is now gone.
The flag.
The flag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of funny. I don't know how to talk more about Wales, but you said Kim Little, and she was game changing
Oh.
here with
Yeah.
the rain. It enabled her influence on the game. Changed how you play. You can play the 6, 8, and 10.
Yeah.
She plays the 6, 8, and 10.
Mm-hmm.
When you went down for a few games, was it last year or the year before?
Last year.
And Kim
Dropped you.
dropped deeper
Mhm.
and really showed
Mm-hmm.
a versatility.
Mhm.
And you have done that as well, advancing
Mm-hmm.
forward. What's it like to have when my wife's like, who's on the show this week? And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's one of the two best women that weren't at the Olympics or the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like,
We
Thank you.
literally had this conversation
Thank you.
yesterday,
yeah.
and we both sat there and we were like, "I know," and we're so excited.
And you played together
Yeah.
on the same professional team.
Mm-hmm.
What
We
was
did.
that relationship like?
Well, it was real funny because we used to play against each other in England. And she obviously played for like Arsenal, who were like, had all of the best players. And I played for Bristol, who had none of the best players. And so we always used to play literally against each other.
Could she be the attacking mid and you'd be the defensive mid? And so,
Yep. And when we played Scotland and Wales, exactly the same. against each other. And so we kind of knew about each other, obviously. But we'd never, we weren't friends, and we didn't speak. We just, had a mutual respect for each other as footballers, right? But obviously, when Harvey came here, Harvey was the manager of Arsenal, so, obviously my first initial question was, when are you bringing Kim? Let's be honest. But there was an agreement that she couldn't take any players for a year.
And mind you, not to derail you, that's just Arsenal now, not Arsenal ladies.
Yeah.
Arsenal WFC,
Yeah.
which I just wanted to make sure we touched on that.
Yeah, that's
pretty
great.
awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
So I'm sorry to
No,
stop you there.
Not at all. And then when Kim came, it was interesting because I think she initially, said to Harvey, what will it be like to play with Jess? And I think Harvey was like, you'll have the time of your life. She will give you whatever you need, and then you can just go and do whatever you want. Which for Kim, I think was key, and it was great for me, right? Because all I had to do was get the ball and pass it to Kim, and then Kim just did the rest, And I think it was a great partnership. That I think for 2014 and 15 was untouchable, personally, and you can't forget Keelan in all of that, because Keelan was instrumental to how we worked also. But there was definitely a chemistry on the field with me and Kim that I don't think you will see in the women's game again for a long time.
You mentioned Laura. Obviously, she recruited Kim. She recruited you.
Mm-hmm.
That has a lot to do with who the Reign bring in.
Yeah.
Her influence globally. One of the things I realize, I have a lot of people that write about women's soccer, so I can just watch it and enjoy, which is a weird experience because normally I have to pay a lot of attention.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I constantly underestimate is Laura Harvey's respect around the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think you can build it up enough.
No.
Well,
I think what people have probably looked over, they either have or they haven't. But I think for me, what it isn't talked about enough is Laura Harvey's ability to have gone through year one that we went through when she didn't understand what was going on here. Hell, I had no idea what was going on in year one. It was crazy. It was like a whirlwind, of how things work here, trades, non-trades. I remember going to training once, and this girl who I'd been training with the entire time had a phone call last night and was on a plane the next day and was gone somewhere else. And to me, I'd never experienced anything like that before. Back home, your team's your team, your squad's your squad. That's it. You go through the highs and the lows together. That's what you do. No.
In most FIFA countries, women or men, you don't move without the player being involved with every moment.
Have a little moment to themselves before, they get a phone call and say, thanks for everything, pack your bag, see you later. I mean, to me, it is insane, right? But that's the way that it is here, and I think for Laura it was really hard to get a grip of that. So I think what is completely overlooked and completely really underestimated is what she then did to put together the squad for 2014 and 2015. That for me changed the landscape a little bit of the women's game here was phenomenal. Phenomenal. And because when you put a team together, you have to get the balance. That's the only way it works, is you have to get the balance of what you want to achieve. And if you look at what she did, it was like a jigsaw. And it was so clever, and it was so smart. And that's never talked about. And I understand why it's not, because we had Kim Little, who was this little thing that was phenomenal at everything that she did. And so everyone would talk about Kim, and rightly so. But you would never look past that to see exactly the brain and the genius behind putting the squad together to enable somebody like Kim to be able to do what she did. Because if you look at a little bit later when we started to struggle a little bit, it was because teams kind of found us out, right? Found how we were going to do, stop going through the middle, so they'd pack the middle and make us do other things. And then you kind of have to change your landscape a little bit then, you know, and we're still trying to figure that out. How do we still want to go through the middle? Do we want to go out wide? Like, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? But for those 2 years, we were untouchable, like truly. And that for me is the players, but it's bigger than that, because to be able to see that jigsaw, see that balance, make it work is a very, 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 in this league, very hard thing to do.
You talked about the A license.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at what Laura does, when you think about it as a coach rather than as a player, does that inspire you to...
Yeah. Laura's made me realize that football is bigger than just football. There's so many different factors as to what makes football work. Hence why we all love it, because there's so many different factors as to why it can go right, why it can go wrong, why you're ecstatic at one point, and then why you're so like devastated that you could cry. Like, that's just what it is. And I think Laura really made us all realize that football is bigger than you. It's bigger than your friends. It's bigger than that. You know, it takes so much to be successful as a football club.
Tom, I've asked a lot of questions.
And
Great questions, by the way.
I can do this at times, but
it's fun. This is good.
Should we learn a little bit about Jess's personality off the field?
We should. I
I
have one. Let's do that. Okay. I do have one other thing. So we talked a little bit about coaching earlier, and I think what's fun is it fits organically into this conversation. Would you want to coach at the club level, or would you rather go into the national program? What's more interesting to you if you had to pick?
If I had to pick one.
Yeah. And why?
Great question. I'd probably go club.
Okay.
And I'd probably go the day-to-day hands-on approach. For me is more fun.
Okay.
And more rewarding. The pull of international is great, but international and club football are so different.
Very, yeah.
They're so different. And for me, being successful as a club and at a club is more rewarding, and I think makes you better than international level. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. No, it's good. I think I'm curious as to people who've played at the national level, and if you were to ask that question to them, you know, like what their answers would be, versus people who never had, and they both had that same coaching aspiration, if they would want to be at the national level or not, just because you've seen it, and it's different, and you're dealing with players coming in and out, and the travel's weird, and there's just so many different things to look at.
Yeah.
So I was just curious.
Yeah.
A lot of national team coaching is as much about scouting as it is about coaching. And that's a different skill set.
Yeah.
Like, identifying talent is different than training.
Yeah.
And part of what you enjoy, it seems like, about the game is knowing people every single day.
Yeah.
The training ground.
I like the hands-on approach. I think it makes a big difference.
Cool.
I warned you via email, we're going to ask you some questions that are not normal for, like, soccer.
And by not normal, it's like, why is Dave's salad just sitting there?
Well,
that is a bit freaky, that. I don't understand what is going on.
I have this thing with some of our guests, oftentimes we eat during the show because we talk
I'm
too
just
much
going to
before
declare the new Mike Facito is Jess Fishlock.
You are the third guest that I haven't been able to eat during the show. Steve Zacquani and Mike Facito were the other two.
Yeah, that's weird.
I ate well.
Because she's like, if I had food, I would be eating it.
Yeah.
I'll
And
get to
it's
that.
salad.
Salad.
Well,
And salad just sitting around is weird because it gets soggy. It gets soggy and then it's weird.
I've lost 17 pounds in the past 5 weeks, so I'm gonna try
Have
to
you
stick
like
with it.
been eating at all? or?
No, I paid attention. To,
He's been trying to interview people that he doesn't want to eat during, and he hasn't found anybody, so we're going to talk
Best
to you for
diet-
the next
interviews that
best
never
diet
went.
ever.
week. We were asked
the
earlier.
drinks I've been having are totally not on the diet.
We were
It's
asked
okay.
earlier on the chat if this was 24 hours with Fishlock because someone was going to need to go get more supplies, so they could just sit there.
Well, we can do that one
we're
day.
Another day.
Okay.
Right. So we have some random questions, which
Okay.
they're just for fun personality stuff.
Like quick fire.
Yeah, we
You
can
could be
all
like
guess.
pass,
Well,
and
no.
then we'll still be like no, answer it anyway.
Okay.
But you can say pass, like
Okay.
you're allowed to.
Okay.
So Dave, you've been asking all the questions tonight, so why don't you go first?
Oh, I'll go first. Do you have a favorite Girl Scout cookie?
Oh, yes, peanut butter chocolate.
The tag-along.
Tag-alongs,
Yes!
Okay, I'm going to be honest there.
but it's Thin Mints.
I
though.
had no idea if that was a Girl Scout cookie.
It is now.
It's just my favorite
It actually
cookie.
is.
Your favorite cookie is
Yeah.
peanut butter and chocolate together, and yeah, the Girl Scouts.
You could have
Wow.
just said peanut butter chocolate, and we all would totally have been like
We all
tag-alongs.
did it.
Yeah. See.
So-
Yeah.
Normally there's a
Oh.
battle between the Thin Mint, which is the chocolate with the mint that you often get out of the freezer, and then Samoas, which are
the correct
a
answer.
Toasted coconut, caramel.
Mint thins,
caramel.
mint thins.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love mint.
mint
Team
can be your
Thin Mints.
second best, but tag-alongs, that's cool. Because
Yeah.
I'm part of the weird like 10% that go for the third.
So we've clarified you're weird. Okay, I got
Done. Nailed it.
it. We've clarified
So that
that's
will
fine.
So
We've clarified.
we're gonna go all over the place. So we're definitely asking the bouncy house question.
Yeah.
That's happening tonight. If you were on death row,
Yes.
Oh.
what would be your last meal?
A roast dinner.
The roast dinner.
A lamb.
dinner.
Welsh lamb.
Because it lasts for a while.
Welsh lamb, though.
Welsh lamb.
Welsh lamb's
Okay.
a lamb.
How is Welsh? What's different? I've had a few lamb. I've been in the Middle East. Lamb is really common. What's a Welsh lamb meal like?
Look, we just have a lot of sheep. So I think we're just trying to help out, you know.
One less sheep.
One less
Culling
sheep.
the herd a little bit.
One less
Dinner.
sheep.
Okay, this one's might be odd because we don't.
You just keep
You're
asking,
you're,
yeah.
you're our first non-American
Oh.
on the show.
Wow.
So normally when we ask Biggie or Tupac,
That's not
Tupac.
really true.
No, we've had.
I've
Keep
talked to
going.
Steve and he insists. So she went right out and she's like Tupac.
Tupac.
Okay, cool. So the follow-up's easy. Yeah. Oh, and Hurtado. Okay, I'm totally wrong.
Dave is fired.
Dave's wrong.
Favorite thing or thing that you've purchased that was under $100 that is like has a big impact on your life.
That I've purchased or that I do?
Oh yes.
My eyebrows get tinted, and I could not survive life without it.
Is it like
In
that?
fact, I got them tinted today for this show.
that near.
Wait, so we can go talk about? Can we talk about Stops with Cop, episode 5, where you guys went to Unicorn? I
had
believe.
my eyebrows done then too.
Yeah, it was good times.
Yeah.
We'll talk
We
some
can talk
Seattle
about
stuff. I
that,
think there's
but-
some fun Seattle things to talk about, but let's keep ripping through these.
Okay.
I'm going to ask a second one because Dave will just
Okay,
go
let's
through like
go, yeah.
50 more. Like favorite song or two on like your pre-match. Do you have a pre-match routine? Something you listen to?
No, I don't have a pre-match routine.
So favorite song, if you were to go get in your car right now, what would be on and why is it Despacito?
Okay, it's not Despacito.
Good
it's
answer.
actually Sam Hunt.
Ah,
I like a bit of country.
okay.
Yeah. And
Alright.
it's his new song. Body like a what? Body like a something. Yeah.
We'll
It's great.
play it later. So on karaoke, that's what you're.
I can sing.
Yeah?
I like karaoke.
Oh.
We can.
That's
Oh, no, take it back.
There's literally
He's-
karaoke right here
I
after
do
the
love
show.
karaoke. I do.
So do
I
you have a go-to karaoke song?
Tina Turner?
Just any Tina Turner?
So
We don't need another hero. We don't need another way
We
home.
don't need
That's a
another
good
hero.
one.
It's either that one or Nutbush City.
Oh.
That's a great one.
Ooh, okay. I
I'm a
think you're
huge-
definitely the first Tina Turner response to that
Tina
that I
Turner
can
is
think
my
of.
lady. I saw her live 3 times.
I saw her at the Tacoma Dome maybe 12 or so years ago. And it was
David's
one of the
rapid-fire
more
questions, not Dave's
entertaining
stories.
shows. Sorry.
Yeah.
We'll do
Sorry.
Dave shows the next time.
We're gonna have to get Fishlock another beer because I just
Dave's
made
the
her
target
start.
tonight.
Sorry. Like
No, it's
you
fine.
can tell your story. I just
And,
because
that's
it's
good.
the internet.
Tina, as a performer,
It's fantastic.
incredible. Like,
Owns it.
and she's still out there. Like,
She still has those legs for sure.
yes. Hugo's not here, so we'll ask for him. What is your favorite taco?
Fish taco.
A fish taco?
I didn't realize.
Of course, it has to
Until I
be. It
said
has to
it.
be a fish taco.
I didn't realize the ironic of that until I said it, but I do love a fish taco.
When you do a fish taco, are you talking like deep fried and breaded or off
It
the grill?
depends how I'm feeling. Depends if I'm feeling like I can do that or whether it needs to be, strictly grilled.
Do you, as a professional athlete, do you pay a lot of attention to what you eat? Athletes tend to go two ways on, like they either do the extreme, like Russell
Yeah.
Wilson's, like my snack is 11 nuts, not 9, not 10, but 11 nuts.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that extreme.
Okay.
Look, for me, it's just if I train at the level that I should be training at, I don't need to worry about what I eat.
That's
or
what Brad
I
Evans
drink.
told me.
Or-
I'm like, you love buffalo
Yeah.
wings, and he's like, I'm like, do you care how many you? He goes, Dave, I burn 5,000 calories a day.
Yeah,
I eat.
it's true. It's absolutely true. Like when I was doing my rehab, I could not physically eat enough food to sustain what I was doing because, I'm small. And my stomach only holds like a certain amount of food, and so I was literally trying to eat stuff to get my calorie intake enough for what I was doing.
We are going to get dim sum.
Fish like this. Dim
Yeah,
sum?
like 3 hours at dim sum, just whatever that is, just that. Yeah. So what's something that you believe in that others might think is crazy?
Ooh, great question.
Could be like a superstition or like that, I don't know,
We've had people say ghosts.
ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Oh wow. Okay,
people
so
out there.
I really want to believe in Transformers.
Like actual Transformers, like Bumblebee.
Like when I go past a lorry here. honest
Lori,
to
by the way, is a
God-
truck. For those of you who
Honest to God, I'm like, please secretly be Optimus Prime.
That's
Like,
Be Optimus Prime.
be Optimus Prime. That's all I want you to do, and I will look through my rear view mirror
to see if it just transforms
to
behind
see
you.
if like something comes out of this truck.
So, did you see the latest Transformers movie?
No, I haven't seen.
You
it
haven't yet?
No.
Michael Bay, if you're out there, send Fishlock a DVD.
Yeah, fish needs.
I did watch a Transformer last night though. The first one, the
The
best
first one. Way back
The
when.
first
Oh.
Michael Bay one or the cartoon?
No, Michael Bay. Not
Okay.
Gotcha.
Have you watched the cartoon Transformers that was like late 80s?
I grew up
Where-
with Transformers.
Oh.
Every Christmas I had an Optimus Prime costume.
So, is
and a
Optimus
helmet.
Prime your favorite Transformer?
You wore a costume for Christmas?
Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome.
How many others wear a costume at Christmas? New tradition. Get on
I
it,
think
people.
so.
Wait, so which Transformers series is your favorite?
Which Transformer series is your favorite was the question.
I didn't know
The cartoon?
Not the cartoon, no.
Okay.
I was so young when I was watching that like I've never gone back to it. I've just like let that go away with my youth, and then went into it when they came out and fell back in love, obviously. And did buy my nephew an Optimus Prime helmet for Christmas, even though he'd watched none.
He had no
of
idea
the
what it was.
Transformers. Had no idea what it was.
Was it the one where you could talk and
Yes.
it makes the
Yeah.
voice?
Yes.
I have played with that in Target for like half an hour.
You just, yeah. You just put it on and you become Optimus.
They
That's what you
love
do.
that.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah, that's true.
Dave, do you have a question?
Your favorite book?
Ooh. Okay, Harry Potter.
Harry
Oh.
Potter.
Oh, yeah.
Any Harry Potter?
Harry Potter, the Half-Blood Prince, I think, is my favorite.
We have Harry Potter follow-ups then. Do you have a favorite Potter?
I have a Potter quote.
Jess has a few tattoos on her, and that what we're aiming right now.
Okay,
so the
so
video,
we have Harry Potter fans here.
a few of them.
Yeah.
Basically,
Just a few.
Okay.
Basically, everybody raised their
I'm
hand
gonna quote you.
for the stream.
My quote, you tell me if you said it. And if you can tell me what thing. You are protected, insured by your ability to love.
The official book person is thinking about this right now.
You are protected. What? Say it again.
I'll do it again. You are protected, insured by your ability to love. Yes! Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa got it right.
Not really
Well done,
surprised.
Lisa.
Lisa's the one who added that to our rapid.
Yeah. Naturally, it was Lisa, of course.
Yeah.
It
When the
was
Jess
Dumbledore for
Fishlock
those
movie is made-
watching online.
Who plays Jess Fishlock?
That's a great question.
Megan Rapinoe.
Megan would be a great Jess Fishlock. Megan would
I actually
be a
think
great
if you did a movie and you played each other, it would be so good. Aside from the on-field exploits, just
Yeah.
to see how that went.
We often text each other when we're out and about and someone gets us mixed up.
You let each other know. Yeah.
I'm like, oh, by the way, I just played you for like 5 minutes.
So it's really funny you bring that up. So I was at Barolo in, it's kind of Belltown, across from the new Amazon campus there, and where Obafemi Martins and a number of other players like to hang out. And I was outside at happy hour, and 2 tables over is a woman that I'm like, I think it's just Fishlock, and
Yeah.
would not turn around towards me, but the hair, the style, the ink, the whole thing, and I'm literally like, I'm gonna look up her tattoos and see if I could identify one. But the person had tattoos on her right arm, and I was
okay.
like, oh, it's not just Fishlock at this bar, and I'm just gonna be really awkward right now. So it wasn't you. But anyway.
Or Megan Rapinoe.
Also.
No,
Megan
okay.
Rapinoe. So what was the last gift that you gave somebody?
Oh, great question. Oh, God.
You can pass. We can come back later.
Come back later.
Okay.
I can't remember.
Dave? Don't ask this question.
No, do you have a favorite Harry Potter house? No, sorry. Which Harry Potter house would you be in?
If the sorting hat was on your head, what would it say?
So this is what I think, right? I think the Sorting Hat would try and put me in Slytherin. I do.
But
I do.
there's a but.
But there's a but. But you can ask, right, what house you want to be in. So I would probably ask to go into Gryffindor. But if he really overruled me and put me in Slytherin, I'd also be okay with that. So, I mean...
Can we get you something, or are you good?
I'll have another one of those.
Is that kind of how you approach the game a little bit? Is a little more
It is.
Slytherin? Like you're like, I will take you out.
It's kind of like this, right? You have to accept both parts of that. And I do. So that's why I would be happy for either or.
That's so great. I want to ask her that. Cycle back probably 2 decades. Let's go way back.
Mm-hmm.
You travel back in time and see yourself. What advice do you give yourself before you're a professional footballer?
Probably like just truly like just never give up on yourself. You know, there was one moment in my career where I almost did. And if it wasn't for my mother, I probably wouldn't be here because I almost gave up on everything that I ever wanted because it was just so hard. And that's probably what I would say is even when it's that hard, just don't give up.
I had listened to a bunch of the NFL Hall of Fame speeches, and every single one of them talked about there was one moment that was not LaDainian Tomlinson, Young, who was just elected. He was walking down the street in like middle school, and a coach was like, "Hey, do you play football? American football?" And he's like, "Oh no, I'm homeschooled." The coach was like, "Would you like to?"
Yeah.
And he went on to be an NFL footballer. And what's interesting about professional athletes that go on, even whether it's they play a single year or decades and get into the Hall of Fame, is there's one moment.
Yeah,
like,
it's true.
Where they almost stopped.
There's always one moment where you can identify where you go, like, it could have been so different if my career could have been so different if literally my mother didn't say to me, if you come home, you won't have anywhere to live. And that's what she said to me because I'd moved away and it was too hard. Like, I found it so hard when I first went out and started my pro in Holland. And for the first 6 months, nothing had gone right. I mean, we're talking about over 10 years ago when women's football was so difficult back then. And Holland were trying this new thing out, but within the first 6 months, my house hadn't been arranged. I was living in somebody's like office, someone's house who took me in because they were being lovely, but didn't have a spare bedroom, so I was living in their like office. My first 3 to 6 months payments hadn't gone in at all.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was just like, at one point I had literally nothing. Like, I couldn't even buy myself a cup of coffee. And it was freezing in Holland. It was like minus degrees. And I remember going home and just like, I can't do this. I cannot do this. And I rang my mother and I was bawling. You know when you sob, like, like you can't breathe. And I was like, Mom, bring me home. Like, I'm done. Like, this, I can't do it. I give up. And she was like, well, if you come home, you can't come home. You won't be allowed in the house. So you'll have to find your own house. You'll do this. You'll do that. And I was like, you bitch. Like, who says that?
Was that because she believed in you more than you did at that time?
Because she knew that this is what I wanted. And I gave up everything for it. And she believed in my ability to get there. And she knew how hard it was. So she did that, and then she flew over for like a month and stayed with me for a month.
Moms are awesome.
They're the best. So if it wasn't for that moment, I wouldn't be here, for sure.
Thank you, Mrs. Fishlock.
Thank you. Well, she knows. Like, every time I win something, she's like, send me my trophy, please. Yeah. I'm like, what? Send me that medal, please. That's for my cabinet. I'm like, okay, mother, that's fine. That's fine.
If you weren't a soccer player, what would you be?
I would love to be a, like, detective or like a criminologist or something like that.
I just imagine you stopping a criminal.
Right.
Like, in middle of the act. And that poor criminal,
like,
just
be
on
like,
the ground.
Excuse me.
What?
Your shirt.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's how she would stop him. She would stop him like you're the...
To kick a high boot to the chest rather than the ball.
It's okay.
Whatever works.
Go with it.
Yeah, it could work.
Thank you. Don't tell Lorraine.
If there was one thing that you could change about yourself, what would it be?
Oh, I could do with a little bit of height. I mean, that's
We're all
Let's
pretty
get rid of
sure
the
that you
elephant
do
in the
pretty
room
awesome
here.
with the height that you have.
No.
But if you
I
wanted
understand
more,
that feel.
You know? No. I mean, I could just be a few inches taller. I mean, could have given me a little bit more. Let's be honest.
okay.
As somebody who often plays as a defensive midfielder, do you think height gets overrated at that position?
Yeah. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I'm lucky because I can jump. If I couldn't jump, I probably wouldn't say that. But no, it's fine. For what I lack in height, I have in speed, so I'm okay. Which tends to happen.
And a little bit in tenacity.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's that too.
As somebody who typically plays as a defensive midfielder or center back, what things
Once
should I do?
played
No,
center.
I'm going to ask you a
you-
new question.
okay.
What things
Okay.
should I try and get away with on my Wednesday night game this week? That the referee, because there's only one ref, what things should I
There's
try and
no
get away
AR
with?
or
Just grab them from the side that the ref can't see. That's what you got to do.
I've tried that. It does generally work.
It does.
Yeah.
I always do it.
Yeah.
Is that awareness of referees? Like,
Yeah, well, they
Kinda
always
gotta
have a
know.
blind spot.
Yeah.
Right. And then, like, when the girls moan, the ref's like, what are you on about? And I'm like grabbed her arm at her back.
like taking them and throwing them to
I've,
the
like,
ground.
handcuffed her back, yeah.
So, who's a... No, let's ask it this way. What historical figure would you like to be in a bouncy house with? You know, like a bouncy house? Yeah.
So who would I want to go in a bouncy castle with? That's what we call
Yeah,
it.
but they have to be a historical figure.
So they have to be dead. Famous.
Yeah.
George Best.
George Best.
Did you watch the 30 for 30?
I hope he brings a flask of whiskey. Because that will be fun.
The odds are pretty high.
Exactly.
Pretty high.
And some ladies,
That is a
too.
wonderful answer.
Yeah. Just saying.
We're going to open it up. We've got a live audience of a couple dozen here tonight. What is your request for us?
Oh. What do you
What-
mean?
Like, those of us on the show, those of us watching, what would you like us to do for you?
Well, number one, I hope you have enjoyed the evening. No, look, I just want you to support the Rain, obviously, and keep pushing women's football because I think that's a big thing. I think from a Seattle perspective, I think we need to try and get the connection between the Rain and the Sounders together because I think as soon as we bridge that gap, it'll be huge. And I think that comes from the supporters more than anything else, to be honest, because there's a big part of their mentality that stops them supporting the Rain because they support the Sounders. If we can bridge that as a community, then I think what that does for the Rain is huge. It might not affect the Sounders that much, but it will affect the Rain and therefore will affect Seattle as a community too. So
One of those things, it won't drag down the Sounders, but
No.
it will lift up the Rain.
And then with that, Seattle, I think, because if you have that much support for two pro teams and one of them being a women's team, I think that's only good for the community, in my opinion.
Do you sometimes see what the Thorns, the Dash, and the Pride, when you travel there and you see that
Yeah.
they get
Of course.
that level, do you get a little jealous once in a while? Or
No, I hate the
Jealous?
Thorns, so I don't really care about what they're doing. But
You're my favorite.
I think that the fact that Seattle is the city that it is, we're really missing a beat by not having the Sounders and the Rain as a compatible clubs. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I think the community is something that can help that because it drives. Sometimes communities does drive sports teams. It just does, and it makes owners rethink and it makes people in those positions reevaluate what they're doing and why they're doing it. So that would probably be one thing,
George and the Dragon.
Oh, I went there for the Euro.
George and Dragon?
Yeah.
So Ram,
Friend of the
Ron,
show.
one of our-
Friend of the show.
is he had said new show,
A buddy
George
cop.
and the Dragon, with you and George Best.
I would love.
Buddy
I would
buddy
love-
cop detective
Buddy
comedy.
cops, detective cop show. So Jacob Cristobal, who we talked about earlier, he wants to know which of your teammates, your current teammates, is the best and which is the worst cook.
Ooh. Great question. So, I'm going to say that Rumi is a terrible cook. And I'm going to say that. I'm going to say that because I actually know nothing about her. So, and if I don't know it, I'm just going to assume it's terrible.
Because you would know if it was good.
Because if it was good, you would advertise it. It's just the way that life works. And I've had very good food from Beverly. Beverly is a great, but it's vegan. This doesn't quite work for me.
It's really good.
It's
vegan.
very good vegetables, but she does take meat for me, which I appreciate, Beverly. So thank you.
That's so good.
I can't even follow that with anything.
So Lick It, another friend of the show, offers in chat.
Wait, what? Lick it.
That's it. That's his actual name. It's harder to say his last name, so I'll just
That's fine.
Lick it.
We'll just
P.
leave it at that.
Yeah. fine.
I'm a linguist, and I don't even attempt his last name. He asked if Jess Fishlock and Osvaldo Alonso went for a 50-50 ball, who would survive?
And like literally survive. Who would actually tell the story later?
Alonso's great, right? So I would have, if it was anyone but Alonso, I would have come back with something, real quick and witty. But I love Alonso. So I'm just going to say it would probably be one of those moments in life where you just see two people just take half of the
nuclear
ball
fission.
away at the same time. I love Alonso. I think he's great.
When you
It's
watch
like
the
a
Sounders
Dragon
games,
Ball
is
Z
he
episode.
Yeah.
the most
Super
Fishlock of
collider.
the-
Yeah.
Oh,
Superconductor, super collider.
He's so smart in what he does, and he's great. I love watching Alonso play. I think he drags the Sounders through everything in the way that he plays, in his personality. He's fantastic. So whatever. I mean, I would still win, but I mean,
Yeah! I
mean,
don't want to arrange that. I know Zach Wani had
We'll drink to that.
Yeah.
one of his...
Please do. That's
The first Zach Wani and Friends game
yes.
had Rain players
It did.
at it. And that leads to a lot of discussion. But when you watch... We didn't do a lot of this. And it seemed... When you watch the Sounders, you watch it for fun, like when you watch the U.S. women, or do you watch it...
No, it's different with the Sounders. When I watch the Sounders, I watch it to try and learn and to try and understand what they're doing and why they're doing it and the tactical elements to it, especially from the MLS perspective, because it's real interesting the way the league works and how they play. But one person that always is fantastic for me is Alonso, because he's different. I think he plays the game in a different way, and he's great. He's great. But I do watch the Sounders. I think when they get their passing game right, I think they're great. When they let it get transitional, I think they struggle a lot. So and he's key to that because he stops that. When he can stop it, he's great.
They're on a recent run of winning without him, which is unusual. You've seen that with your own team.
Yeah.
When you're out, what's that? When a player that's so key goes down and the team goes through that and manages to not drop points.
Yeah. Sorry.
No. Okay, we got it.
Just
Stretched my ear
Part
a
of
long
Dave's
time
salad
ago.
is also on the floor down there, so watch out for that.
No, the earring was clear of the
His
salad.
soppy salad.
I got here very early and still managed to not eat. What's it mean when a team goes through the absence and gets the victories without such a key player? Like in your case, when you were out and you saw the team pick up wins.
It was great. It was great. That Sky Blue game. Was anybody there for the Sky Blue game? The 4-0.
You got at least one.
It was, they go 4-0 up and you're like, this is amazing, because it's such an important game, Sky Blue. And then it goes 4-4, and it's like horrible. And then Pino gets, of course, gets the winner in like the 87th minute or whatever it was, and you know, you're like a fan. Like, the reality of it is nothing changes. You want them to. You want the team to win. You know, they have to win. And the beauty of football is it is a squad game. Like, everyone says it. It's such a cliche. It's, you know, we need the squad. We need everybody. It's not just the 11. Blah blah blah. But it is genuinely, that's what it is, because it is so demanding on your body that people are going to get injured, and you're going to need people to step up, and the injuries cannot affect your team. And the best teams, that's what happens. The injuries just does not affect them.
Sky Blue is one of those teams that's going to compete for entry in the playoffs with you. North Carolina on the other side.
Yeah.
They're basically league favorites.
Yeah.
Right now.
Who are in town this weekend, right?
Correct.
Home and home.
Yeah.
And even before they relocated, they were the bugaboo.
Yeah, they're so annoying. They are. They're
They have a
annoying
rivalry
because they're
built-
very good at the way that they play, but the way that they play is very frustrating. Because they're very direct. But they're very good at being very direct, you know? So for us, because we like to play, it's really very, very annoying when it doesn't work out your way and their type of playing gets the better of your type of playing. It's really annoying.
How do you deal with a team that likes to go direct as a team that in general is more possession oriented?
We really struggle with it. It's the one thing that we've struggled with all season. We just can't get to grips with it at all because we're not built for that. But that's how teams know they can really hurt us. So that's what teams are going to do, right? I mean, it's.
But they're the ones that pull it off.
Oh yeah. Well, they have very good players in very important positions for that style of play, and they do it very, very well. They do it very well.
The other team that's frustrated you a little bit is FC Kansas City.
Yes.
Sorry.
It's okay.
There have been a moment or two.
Total huge side eye right there, Tom.
It's actually maybe the worst side eye I've ever received in my life. So I'm just going to cry.
Do you dream of like a playoffs where you're like, I face both of them?
Like nightmare, like.
Wait, is
that what you're saying? Like,
dream or the scary dream? Like, would you rather go through both of them in to get that first title?
Yeah.
Take them.
I don't want to like avoid them to get it. No. That's like going to play a tennis tournament and not having Federer or Nadal or Djokovic in the lineup. You win it, but you don't really win it because they're not there to beat.
So in your
make
case,
sense?
yeah, you want the Thorns to miss the playoffs,
Duh.
and you want
Because Portland.
either Carolina or Kansas City in the first round, and then the other one in the second,
Yeah.
in the final.
Ideally. But I don't think Kansas are going to make it.
Not this year.
No.
They're a little worse.
So just talk about. I just want to bring up Sky Blue for a second. So,
Yeah.
I went to college at Monmouth University in New Jersey,
Not Rutgers.
not Rutgers, and Christy Pierce at the time, Christy Rampone, who
That's
was
the
on
one,
Sky
yeah.
Blue, was a multi-sport star at a relatively small, like 5,000 student school. And she was the person that was like on the cover of the student magazine all the time and in the newspaper. And I just remember going to games and just watching her demolish people.
Oh, yeah. She still does.
Yeah, absolutely. And she's, I would say, the player, having had high school friends who played soccer and were very good on kind of the regional or state level. And then I went to college and got to watch her play all the time. And then it was fun to like see where women's soccer grew, kind of with her, almost like, I don't want to say lucky for her, but at the same time as her career really took off, women's soccer had some really amazing moments. So for me, it's been fun because I paid attention because it was cool, but also because I had met someone in a hallway, who was on a national team.
Yeah.
And she was actually a superstar basketball player and actually left the basketball team, which was a very good team, on the run to the NCAA tournament, and it was a huge issue. Really at school, it was the thing where in the hallway, people were like, Christy Pierce left the basketball team to go to the national soccer team. What's going to happen to the women?
Yeah.
Like, their basketball team is going to not do well now because of that. So for me, what's been cool is like getting to, I don't know, having paid attention to soccer change in this country. And my dad, I'm first generation on that side, American. My dad's from Hungary and was the person who, like, I grew up in the 80s, and it was always the soccer's going to be big in the U.S. one day. And like, I had that in my house,
Someday.
you know, all the time. And then it was neat to see it.
Yeah.
And like having met people personally that like fought through it and maybe had like an analogous experience to what you've experienced. It's neat to see kind of where we are today.
Yeah.
And I think in Seattle, we do have a little bit of a different city, different market.
Yeah.
Seattle, Portland, and a few other places, whereas the rest of the country is very much getting into it. But I think we're at a really cool point in America as a whole, for a big country that has trouble agreeing on anything.
Yeah.
I think we're seeing soccer as a whole, irrelevant of who's playing it, have a really awesome moment, and I genuinely think it's here to stay.
Yeah.
So I think it's cool that I got to go from like paying attention to what somebody was doing on the field in college to like sitting here and, like I said, Dave and I were literally fanboying at a picnic table yesterday that we got to talk to you. So it's super fun. And I think it's indicative of, I mean, frankly, the fact that there's a crowd of people here and everybody wanted to come hang out. It's indicative of where we're at as people or country or fans or whatever you want to say.
No, for sure. I think, even me, I've been here 5 years now, and the growth that I've seen in soccer as a sport, not just female, but male also, is huge. It is. And, all you want is that the knowledge of the game gets a little bit better. And then with that, the quality of the game will get better, obviously. And then the beauty of it is in, maybe probably the next generation, their knowledge is so much better, that their quality is so much better, that then soccer starts overtaking the sports here that it probably should have overtaken a long time ago. I
think we're seeing it, and I think a lot of us that are, tangentially connected to the business, you hear a lot of things, rumors. I've seen things about, I mean, the NFL is a behemoth that is just going to do its own thing. Yeah. But I've also heard that the average age of the fan is going up right now. And that's an indicator of a lot of things. And baseball has seen that very much so. And I think the NFL is starting to see it and recognizes it. Yeah. Which is curious. Aside from the safety and like kind of other things you see now where parents don't want their kids playing football and so on. And I think most of us that are in this room, whether they grew up here or elsewhere, grew up in a place where, sure, everybody played soccer, but you had 100 friends that played American football. Yeah. And now I know a lot less people who are 45 and have teenage kids that ever have their... It's not even they're not letting their kids playing football. Their kids are just not playing
just
football.
Don't want to.
And that's weird, to see, like, as an American.
Yeah.
And it's, on one hand, really good. On one hand, it's kind of unfortunate that that's what it takes to get to that point, you know? Because I don't want soccer to be successful just because something else fails. Yeah. You want it to, like, lead on its own. Of
course. The beauty of America is it's so big that, there can be multiple sports that get so much attention, that generate so much revenue, that it doesn't have to be a single sport country, right? But I do think that the beauty of soccer that is so different from American football and baseball, etc., is that it is worldwide. And what that will bring to your country is something special. Yeah. And that is something that our Americans probably need to understand a little bit more. Is yes, there's the NFL, and yes, there's the baseball. I don't even know what the league's called. I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
but it's just in America. And with soccer, it truly is like your kids can go and experience so much, like worldwide, like, and that's got to be better than just not experience things like that, than just staying in one country because of that one sport that's in one country. That, you know, with sport, there's life too. You see the average life of an NFL or you know, the average span and what that does to people after their careers. With soccer, it's different, and you can see so much more, and your life can be so much bigger, and it can be so much better because of that. And I think what we're seeing with America now is they get that. They understand that now, that your kid can be great at soccer, and they can get a scholarship, and they can go over to Europe, and they can do great at Europe, like the Pulisic
with Dortmund.
Yeah, like that's what can happen with soccer.
Right.
You know, whereas NFL or whoever else here, they get great, they get big, they think they're bigger than the law, and they end up doing stupid things. Whereas in football, it's different. It's a lot more grounded, and it's you can go anywhere. Why would you not want that? That's what I don't understand.
We look at what soccer has brought, whether it's through the Rain or the Sounders. We have Rumi and Naho. Mm-hmm. We have this Welsh great, the Scot. With the Sounders, we have a Colombian, a Cuban, Uruguay. We get this exposure to other cultures.
Exactly.
In ways that aren't quite there with, like, baseball has a lot of Latin America, and the NBA does really good with Eastern Europe and Spain. But soccer, we get the globe, and they come here, and they experience Seattle, and we experience your culture. We learn about Sunday roast. We learn, you know.
No, it's true. It's true, and that is the difference with football, with soccer. That is the difference in what that sport does bring you, and I think that's why that sport is the best and the biggest sport in the entire world. You know, you can't question that at all.
We've talked about this a ton of times on the show. Like, I'm from the East Coast originally. I grew up playing baseball and like played other things, and like ran cross country in high school. And when the Metro Stars were the team in New Jersey, in New York, in New Jersey, had gone to a number of games, and it didn't have the same level of pickup. At least with honestly, like, white Americans, it just wasn't the same amount of attention. And when I had moved out to Seattle, I moved out at just about the right time for Sounders land, had paid attention to soccer and watched it on television, and mostly international soccer, I would say, or leagues outside of the U.S. And then came here and was like, wow, this is a thing. And it's not just like the cool thing to do on Saturday or Sunday or whatever.
No.
It's like, it's a culture thing. So much so that now I travel, and I think a lot of the people that are here, I go to Italy and I plan a trip around when Inter Milan is playing at home so I can go to a match.
100%.
Like, I literally change my travel so I can do that, because you want to see it in Chile and you want to see it in Mexico, and
100%.
it's a like cultural experience, and I don't think that's something I can relate to as a fan of other sports that aren't soccer.
No, it's true. Whenever I go anywhere, the first thing I think of is who's playing where, when. How do I get there?
Can you match them up to your travel plans? What do you need to do?
Can I get there? How do I get there? You know, and look, I'm lucky because I was born in the UK and I was brought up with the EPL, and by that point, you know, it was just on the rise. You know, they just got their first Sky deal.
Yeah.
Their first TV deal, which really changed the Premier League back then. And what I got to watch and to grow up with was arguably probably some of the best players in generations. And that is all I knew. And the problem, but the difference here is, you know, you can watch so many different sports, that what is going to be the sport that you are going to study. Because as a kid, that's how you learn.
Yeah.
Is by watching and by studying. And, the little problem here is that there are so many sports, that they played so many sports, and they get to watch so many different sports that the learning gets a little bit nullified or gets diluted because of those different sports, which is fine. But then when you get to the level that you need to get at, your knowledge base is a little bit lower than it would be, say, in Europe, where you have been learning and watching from U12, U14, U16 in that one sport. And that's always a question here. When do you specialize? When do you do this?
Right.
When do you do that?
Because kids play everything.
Which I totally understand and I totally get. But that's the difference, because there's so many sports here. Whereas in Europe, there's like 2 sports maybe in Europe that they specialize in.
Cricket?
Not even specialize.
Cricket.
No.
No, she's from Wales.
No one plays cricket.
So I know we're a little late on 9 p.m. The crowd is probably not going to leave. I'm just going to assume. I want to be respectful of your time. If you're good to keep chatting at least until you finish that beer.
Yeah.
Or Dave finishes his salad.
Or Dave's salad.
That won't happen.
Your water.
I won't even allow you to try that.
Your water is half full, so we're good.
My water's empty.
That's for the coaching staff.
So
Was there?
Thankfully, I know they're not watching this, so it's okay.
Susie is, though, and that's the problem. The media.
Susie and Jacob will write this up.
Susie, be nice. Okay.
When the word got out that the NWSL was going to have year 4, that meant that it entered a territory that the other 2 women's leagues didn't have. Was that something that you were aware of? Did coaches and front office tell you about it? Or
Yeah. I think that because I was in it and it was so stable that I didn't think of anything that wouldn't happen. Like, it wasn't like the year 4 wouldn't happen. To me, it was just like who we sign in, what we're doing, like where are we going.
It was just, let's get another trophy.
It was like, let's do what we've been doing. And the same with year 5. I think the league is so stable right now, and we don't have to worry about that. It's not like we're in a crisis right now. It's stable, and we've just got to keep trying to keep it growing and to do the right things to allow it not only to grow but to be better. That's what we got to aim. It's not just about keeping the league stable. It's about allowing the league to grow, because only when the league grows can the clubs grow, and that's inevitably what we need and what we want. And that's what we've got to strive for. It's not just the stability. It's about making it better.
Lifetime, that TV contract.
Yeah.
It's
now
a big
that
deal.
they don't make us play in the middle of the day at 110 degrees, then yeah, it's a bit better. I think it's, for me with the TV stuff, it's like this. It's so good that we get it, but then they really do really stupid things that make me question what they're doing. Because to put a game on in the middle of the day at 110 degrees when nobody can move, really, you are creating your own problems for yourself. Because if you want a really good game of football, don't make them play it in 110 degrees in the middle of the day. It's very simple concept. So for me, I think that's got to get better, because yes, I love Lifetime. They're great. We have a TV deal. It's fantastic. It's huge for the league. But don't make us play at 110 degrees in the middle of the day, because you're going to have players passing out, and the level of the game is going to be far lower than it actually is, which then dilutes your product, which is ineffective.
It's better to have fewer people watching if they're watching the better product, because they're more likely to come back.
Because they're going to come back
internet
and they're going to
time
watch it.
that we all live in right now.
Yeah.
So,
do you watch the Lifetime movies that are lead-in programming?
Sips beer.
Because I watched a lot of
I'll tell you a
Lifetime
funny
movies.
story though, right? So we were on the bus the other day, and I'm really good friends with Bev, like really good friends with Bev. So I'm getting on the bus on the way to the game. I have my headphones on, and all I can see is Bev laughing. I can't even hear it because my music in, but it's so obvious that she's like cracking up at something that I have to take my headphones out and I have to ask her what she's laughing at because it was so obvious. So she shows me a comment that gets put on Instagram that she made, I think, about Watch Us on Lifetime. And the comment was from someone obviously who watches Lifetime, their dramas and their thrillers, that it was, you know, can y'all stop putting sports on Lifetime? Lifetime isn't about sports. I just want to watch my thrillers. Like, I don't want any sports on Lifetime. And we were like, who comments on what's on a channel? Like, who comments on that stuff?
Welcome to the internet.
Yeah.
Like, it's
It
awful.
was it was brilliant, though. It was brilliant because
you got humor out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It was. I felt for her really because she really doesn't want sports on
Right.
Lifetime, which is, you know, I don't understand really, but yeah.
Wow.
It was a good exchange there. We had no idea what's the thing that you wish people would ask you more about, but we don't.
I don't know. I do get asked a lot of questions. I don't know. Nothing really.
People cover enough of who you are.
Everything. Pretty much, yeah.
I have a really banal question that I'll ask.
Oh, good. Let's.
What words or phrases do you overuse?
I do swear a lot.
We never do. This actually might be the first show where we haven't sworn.
This is one
up
of our
till this
cleaner
point.
shows. Yes.
Oh, really?
Fuck that.
I don't have a
so you
big.
swear
I
a
do
lot.
swear a lot.
Can you teach us how to swear in Welsh?
There
Well,
are
it's
so
still
many
English.
consonants in a row, though.
It is. It's like a different language. So, like, for example, if I was to say, hello, how are you? It would be Shumai Sitorti. And no one ever understands what that is. It's like a song.
And
It's a crazy language.
it's only like half of people in Wales, too. Like,
Yeah, not even that. Like a quarter, probably.
But you were saying that the swears are English.
The swears are English. Yeah.
because you can't swear in Welsh. It's
It
too
wouldn't
good.
be offensive. Like, no one would understand what you were doing.
It sound like a song.
It
as
sounded
you
like a
said.
song, exactly.
It does sound like a song. Although I will tell you, I know a fair amount of Spanish, and the fun thing about Spanish is it's obviously very verbose, or you know, a lot of words to say certain things. But you can say super, super insulting things, but people have to think about them for a second, because like you're not going to say something about this person's mom. You're going to be like, your mom works on the corner. And that's what people say to each other. Instead of using in English, you would say one specific word.
Yeah, I get you.
And yeah, it's a very interesting thing because
So you would say
it's
like a
just different.
sentence.
Yeah.
Okay.
And people are like, oh. They had to think about that, and you're already like down the street.
Yeah, you're already running.
While they figure it out.
Okay.
Okay, so it does sound wonderful, Welsh.
Oh, yes.
But like the interesting thing is for me, like I look at it, and I had this conversation with someone about vowels, and it's like, and sometimes Y is a thing in like American English, the way we learned, and I know people that have learned sometimes W, and it's like that they learned at a time where there were other uses of the letter W in English in grammar school in the United States and Canada, which is the weirdest thing ever.
Yeah.
But there are books where it's like, and sometimes W.
Well, Welsh
No.
with the double D.
Yeah, and the
double
double
L.
L.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a sound. Like a double is like a... That's a double L. So when you're speaking, you have to go...
As opposed to like, yeah, like in Spanish, that double L means a specific thing too.
Yeah, it's so weird.
Interesting.
It's like
We're all gonna learn Welsh and
Welsh
have
is like
signs
learning
at the next match.
sounds in your mouth.
Your
Yeah.
family made certain you, or was it school that made certain you learned some Welsh?
I learned a little bit of Welsh in school, not my family. But then it wasn't compulsory. It was more like an extra lesson. So obviously nobody wants to do extra lessons, so you never learned it. Thankfully now it's different and it's more compulsory, because I do feel like we need to get our language back into order. My little nephew speaks it, which is great. He went to a Welsh school, so we had to speak all Welsh. So he learned Welsh before it was his first language,
Like
really.
all day?
Yeah.
Welsh? Okay.
Not, he doesn't do it now. He's in
Yeah.
an English school
Yeah, yeah.
now as he got older, but when he was younger, he learned it, which was great.
Bringing back that identity is something
Yeah.
that's been happening over the past 10,
Yeah.
15 years.
It was so important for us to do that. I wish I had learned it in school, but it was never a thing. So I just didn't do it. But I wish that I was made to do it. I wish it was like English and math, although I really don't use math at all. But I wish that Welsh was, instead of math, probably would be better.
So we got a couple questions in the chat.
Okay, that's fine. You have a live chat?
So JJ
We do,
asked,
yeah.
if you could mirror one skill from the following, which would it be? Kim Little's dribbling, Neho's soft feet, or Pinot's shooting?
Kim Little's dribbling. Yeah,
Okay.
it's true.
There's a lot of Kim Little love happening.
I do love her. She's great. She's injured now, too. It sucks.
Ooh, Jacob wants to
Is
know
it-
how many times you've worn the donkey shirt.
Oh,
And once, Jacob.
he's the only
He
person that
says, he
knows.
says you have to
Says you
tell
have
the
to tell the
truth.
A couple of times. A couple of times.
Okay.
A couple of
Do we have any
times.
questions in the room?
There's no questions off limit either.
The
Why
question
don't you
is
play for
stupidest,
the U.S. national team?
stupidest question you've gotten.
Like daily, probably, right?
Like the amount of tweets I get, they're like, how is Jess Fishlock not picked for the national team?
So it's like
I'm so tempted to write back, I know, right? So stupid.
it's the Sebastian Schweinsteiger winning the World Cup with the Chicago Fire
You should
question.
add like Jill Ellis and be like,
Yeah.
why am I not in
At
the
Jill
national
Ellis,
team
why
right
don't
now?"
you pick me? I don't
Just quote
understand.
tweet. Just quote tweet the question on
This
Twitter.
That's
fan
wonderful.
clearly understands the game.
Yeah.
I'm going to try and find you on the street and just be like, hey, when are you coming out for the national team?
Yeah.
I heard you were a
Like-
decent player.
Yeah. It's funny, actually. But no, because I'm also like, I don't understand why you're asking it. Like, surely you know. But
Yeah.
I don't think people understand it, really, to be honest.
I agree. There was a thing a couple of years ago about how well would Messi do in the Euros, and it was like a story,
Yeah.
and like a legitimate publication online, and I was like, he might watch them on TV. I don't know. Like, what do you mean?
Well,
Is this a real question?
It goes back to what you were talking about with American sports. We don't have a national team for our other teams because our other teams are just clubs
Yeah.
or whatever you call them, franchises, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so for an American, it's like you play in America, so you should play for the American team,
Yeah.
right? You
Sure.
should be the dream team in the Olympics.
Yeah.
You have a few tattoos.
I do.
You have the hands.
Yes.
What's that one a symbol of?
Honestly, lesbians. That's it. That's it. That's all that one is about.
Is that personal or is it just a
Yeah, I
symbolic?
just think that it is symbolic. I'm not going to go into the symbolicness of it.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that I'm advocate for the LGBTQ community, and I think that as athletes, we have such a platform to voice help or support to that type of community, and it means a lot to me too. Like it's not easy being gay. It's not an easy thing to do or to try and deal with or to try and understand, especially when you're young. And so, something happens, and when something happens in my life, I like to just get a tattoo and to just make sure that it stays with me for a long time, and that's just who I am, and that's just what I believe in, to be honest. And I think that especially now with society, with what's going on all around the world right now with the LGBT community, that the people who have a voice and have a platform now more than ever need to make a stance.
Do you think that female athletes get a little more pressure to be outspoken on social issues than...
Yeah, because there are a lot more female athletes that are out than there are male, which I understand. It's in the male world, you stand to lose a lot more than in the female world. But I still think that there's a huge pool that we can get to and that we can touch, and that was part of the Stops with Cops thing too.
Yeah.
I always try and reach out when I can to that community because I know how hard it was for myself when I was so young. So, I do believe in it. I am an advocate for it. I'll always support it. I'll always help it. And I'll always try and help people no matter what. So,
the Seattle sports community has been among the leaders in the nation.
Yeah.
On not just LGBT rights, but more like acceptance, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You and Brad. And
I would actually say acceptance is not even the word; it just is.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's it mean for you to have a community that's like, it just is?
It's like night and day. It's one of the best feelings in the world to know that you can just go out in your everyday life and be you, and it's fine.
Somewhat related, Megan took a knee.
Yeah.
The Washington game was the one where that kind of blew up.
Mm-hmm.
What did that mean to you? You're not a U.S. citizen, so taking a knee during the anthem. I've talked to enough athletes that from outside of the country that playing the anthem alone is weird. But to have an American citizen do that, did you talk to her about it? What was the feeling around the team when that happened?
Look, it's different for me because I'm not a U.S. citizen and I haven't been brought up with the flag. I haven't been brought up with the anthem or what it means, the 4th of July. So for me, it was just understanding why she was doing it and trying to understand the reasoning as to why she felt that the reason why she felt that she was doing what she was doing. And because I don't have the emotional connection to the flag, I understood it and I get it. I do. And I will support any of my teammates no matter what, and I think we knew as a club that it was going to be a big deal, and it was going to have a backlash and do whatever. But I always believe in people standing up for their opinions, and I believe in people standing up for what they believe in. And with Pino, she, right or wrong, whatever people feel about it, she does absolutely stand by what she believes in, and you cannot do anything but respect that. And for me, support that, because I'm not American, and so I don't have the emotional connection to the flag. So for me, I absolutely respected and supported everything that she did, because it's not easy to do that to such a big nation on such a big political moment, I think, that was going through the country right then. And to have such a belief on something and to make such a stance, I think, was very brave. And like I said, I'm not American, so I don't have that emotional connection. So I just looked at the whole bigger picture of why and war. And when I looked at that, then of course I understood it and I supported it. And, I respect Megan hugely for her stance and her beliefs.
When she announced that she wasn't going to kneel anymore, were you disappointed at all, or did you understand?
Look,
Did that change?
no, it didn't change anything. I don't think it changed her beliefs at all. But obviously, the stance and the kneeling, at least, was a problem for America, and I think hit her heart. And I think then, not kneeling but still having the same beliefs are two totally different things, and I know that, and I'm not stupid enough to not understand that. So I still will always stand by and support Megan and everything that she does, because she always has a valid reason for what she believes in. And like I said, when someone has such a strong belief on something, you can't do anything but stand there and respect them, because they're trying to make change on matters that people are too scared to try and make change about. So,
Do you think that kind of motivated her performance in red, white, and blue a little bit? Like, gave her a little bit of extra effort?
no, I think Megan is a professional athlete anyway, and always wants to be the best and always wants to do the best. She had a terrible time with injury and just got back from injury, and really focused on her during her rehab, and it's been brilliant. She's come back and she's been phenomenal, and that just goes to show what type of athlete she is, really.
So
I got very serious while the karaoke's in the background. I'm
Yeah.
sorry about that.
it's funny because we've had an interesting digression,
Yeah.
progression of music behind us. We could probably talk about this for a week, but JJ again asked, when you retire, don't do it anytime soon. Would you do you plan to go to any place in particular? Do you not know? Will it depend on the opportunities? If you called your shot right now, would you call Laura and be like, sorry, but I want that?
In an ideal world for me, I would love to go into my first real coaching role without playing
Yeah.
alongside Laura. That would be an ideal thing for me, because I feel that that's where I'll learn the most.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Laura is there's so many opportunities for her also, and so whether I don't know from a coaching perspective if we'll ever cross paths. I hope we do. But she's got a good 15 years ahead of me, so I have to try and climb that ladder pretty fast if I get to work alongside.
Do you expect her to be a national team coach
Yeah.
soon? Like, do I have to get ready to lose Laura?
No, I expect her to be a national team coach. I just, hopefully it's not whilst
Not
we're
while
still
you're
playing for the rain.
Yeah.
But equally, she deserves it. So for me, if and when she gets a call, I'll support her with everything that I have.
So if you had to choose, would you stay in Seattle and coach the Reign, or would you go for brunch in the AWL?
Seattle in the rain. I would just get someone over to make me Australian brunch, probably.
By the way, did they eat all the random things that are trying to kill you all the time in Australia? Is that what they eat for brunch?
Have you ever had kangaroo?
Yes, actually.
How amazing is it?
Very.
You're the only other person here.
Seriously?
Probably.
Kangaroo's fantastic.
Has anybody in the audience ate kangaroo?
Yeah.
We got two.
We actually have
good-
two
how
people
good
in the
is it?
audience who've eaten kangaroo.
You like it?
It was better than I expected.
Right? I love kangaroo.
Does it taste like pork?
But they don't really like eating it in Australia. It's like a frowned upon. Understandably, I guess.
No, but
It's their animal. but
Like
it
eating a
tastes so
bald
good.
eagle.
you are fired. Who wants to produce the show next week? Eating a bald eagle? Did you just say that? I love the fact that you just suggested that eating kangaroo is like eating a bald eagle, and that's the worst thing that was said so far tonight, except something about Dave's salad.
That is still there.
I'm really hungry right now, and I'm totally not going to eat that salad.
Maybe you should just eat the lemon.
The lemon
So-
from that drink. No.
So can you talk a little bit about Starfire to Memorial? You can pass.
No, I can't.
A big sigh. Flex the...
I hate, and I don't hate anything, really. I hate.
What about like
Starfire.
bad tippers? Do you hate them?
Who?
Like people who tip poorly in restaurants?
So tipping's not a thing for me. I had to be educated on tipping. I had to.
It's a thing here. It's like culture.
It is a culture.
Yeah.
But it was a culture that it took me a long time to understand
So
the
that was
culture.
the worst possible example I could have
The
given.
worst possible.
So like,
So she doesn't hate anything. We just asked about
You don't hate
Starfire
anything,
versus
but-
Memorial.
but-
I hate Starfire.
Okay.
I hate it. Everything about Starfire reminds me about year one. And sometimes we train there, like when Memorial is unavailable. And honestly, like I get that and I'm just like really a bitch because I hate it so much. Like I cannot stand it.
You said some of it's the memories of that year one, which is the record, which wasn't great, but there's more than that to
Yeah,
it, right?
it's like that. There's not a changing room there for us, which it sucks. You just feel like you're the average Joe off the street going into a complex where there's always like 10,000 people there anyway, so there's no privacy whatsoever. And you're walking somewhere, and I completely. I'm great with fans, and I love fans, and I will sign anything and spend so much time with them. But when I'm training, I kind of just want to train and really focus on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And there's moments where, like, you just are kind of, you're in between so much. Like, are you training? Are you not training? Are you supposed to be signing things? Are you not supposed to be signing things? Are you supposed to be having conversations with mums and dads that you don't really want?
There's no barrier, right?
There's nothing. It's just
Yeah.
like chaos. And for me, it's hard because when you get in Memorial, like, it's work. Like, you get up, you go to Memorial, you do your goddamn job, and you go home. And then that's it. And it's great.
It sounds kind of like what you were talking about with Citigroup,
Yes.
where Memorial has that feeling
Yes,
for you.
exactly
and
that.
Starfire has before you were involved with City,
100%.
when you were at Wales and you had to...
100%. 100%. Where you're there for every other reason other than actually to train and to get better and to do what you're supposed to do.
We're going to come back to that.
Okay.
Because that's a good question. I want to make sure we hit the rest of the room. Any other questions in the house?
Live attendees?
Everybody's
No?
thinking? No questions?
Playoffs, specifically thoughts on playoffs and club football. Should it be a table?
Single table versus playoff
That's
format.
a great question. Okay, so when I first got here, I hated it. Didn't understand it. Thought it was kind of basically congratulating mediocrity, basically. Which I don't like. For me, you either win or you lose. It's very simple. But what I have learned to understand as the years have gone on is that it does create a very exciting table, and for the fans, it's far more exciting to have that situation. And I think, it's also helpful when you have a lot of injuries and you have a bad month, you can get it back, which I think in the single table, it's very unforgiving. So I have gone from I really dislike it to actually I think it's a good idea, and I get it and I understand it, and I think I quite like it now, for that reason that a single table can be quite boring, actually. And within half a season, the whole league can be done. So I think this way makes the league not be done. I just wish that there was a way that the winners of the whole league can get a little bit more recognition than the winners of the actual championship. Because I feel finishing first over a longer period deserves far more than winning the championship game, which is kind of based on luck.
Welcome to MLS. Would you feel that way if there were 20 clubs?
What do you mean?
If there were 20 clubs in your league,
Yeah.
would you still want playoffs?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're feeling the playoffs.
Yeah, I like the playoffs. I just wish that the winners of the whole thing got a lot more recognition than what they get.
Which is, I think, how
A lot of
probably
people.
We all
everybody
feel
here
that
feels
way, yeah.
about the Shield.
Yeah.
It's interesting in the U.S., I think there's very much a split between fans who think the Supporter Shield is the better trophy,
Yeah.
and fans who are okay with you wait until September to get good and win the MLS Cup like the last two that have happened
Yeah.
in MLS. Yeah, and like it is a very American thing
Yeah.
to have playoffs.
Yeah.
And it's fine, but I think that's a good way to put it, to look at
Yeah.
it that way. And frankly, I don't know if we've ever really talked to anybody that isn't from the USA and
Yeah.
really talked to them about this. So it's
Yeah.
interesting to hear that perspective.
I think if you were able to celebrate them winning the league,
Yeah.
like, hugely, and then be more to the point of, can they now go and win the championship
Yeah.
now that they've proven to be the best team in the league? Whereas right now it's kind of like whoever finishes first and whoever finishes fourth,
Right.
it doesn't. There's no difference
Doesn't matter.
between them, and
Yeah.
I just don't agree with that at all.
Okay.
It's almost like there should be the separation between the end of the season and the playoffs.
Yeah.
Instead of it being go right into the playoffs, right?
Or like
make it
may-
almost like a second
yeah.
season.
Or like maybe if you finish first, you just go straight to the final, and then second, third, fourth, play in a little series to see who plays them in the final. For me, I don't think
I
if
like
you
that.
finish first that you have to fight to get to the final. Does
Just
that make
like
sense?
the playoffs.
The
But-
Australian format, which
but-
you just went over, the Australian men's league do the grand final format, which 3 places 4, the winner of that places 2, winner of that
No, one does 4, 3 does 2 does 3.
for Australia. I thought they did the staggered.
No.
Oh,
Maybe you should have
I'm-
done some research, Dave.
first time for everything.
Now I know that because we played Canberra last year and they won the Shield and we finished 4th, and we beat them.
And a wink.
which is why she likes the playoffs.
Yeah. But the first team should, for me, just go straight to the final.
Yeah.
I'm excited for when you learn how to say Melbourne. Melbourne.
Yeah. No.
It's not going to happen. So, other than the food, tell us your favorite thing about playing in Australia. Brunch, excuse me, specifically.
Kangaroos.
I wish that I did things in Australia, but I really don't.
Well, you were kind of busy.
I was busy last year.
Yeah.
Too busy. Actually, last year my mum and dad came out for my 30th, and it was like a turning point for me because up until that point I was so engrossed in playing and managing that my life was truly like a shithole. Like, it was awful. And then my mum and dad came out, and my mum never travels, and my dad hates to fly. But they came out because it's my 30th. And they,
That's a little bit of travel and flying.
right?
Which
And
way do
then-
you go? Do you go over Asia from...
Yeah, you go to... No. You
so
go...
they come this way?
They go to Dubai.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah,
Europe, Asia.
and then go. And when they kind of arrived at the airport, I kind of just scrapped everything, apart from my training. But I just kind of stopped, not managing, but as in I just delegated everything because I obviously wanted to spend time with my mum and dad who I hadn't seen for probably at that point, the whole season at the rain. And then I went straight to Australia. So you're looking at like 6 to 9 months. And we're very close. So that was a turning point for me because I got my life back. And, my mum was like, what are you doing? Stop doing film and stop looking at football. And she actually came to one of our games that we lost at that point. And she was like, I'm not coming to the next game. So I'm just going to go to the pub and then I'll meet you there, which is typical of a Welsh person. So, it was so nice for me because it was like life again.
Yeah.
Other than just football and football and football.
We've asked you what to do in Australia. What should we do if we visit Wales?
Go to Cardiff, for one. Cardiff town's amazing. And then we have a bay area, which is great too. And then obviously you should come to the Fishlock house because they'll make you
For
a
Sunday roast?
They make you a Sunday roast. Yeah,
There's always room for one more on a Sunday
exactly.
roast, right?
My mother will always cook. She prefers to cook for more than less. We have a great national park. You can meet the sheep I was talking about earlier. There's a lot to do in Wales.
If Wales doesn't have speed limits? Oh.
Yeah, there is.
There's also roads that you can only go like 3 miles an hour, right? Because they're
the
winding
sheep.
up and down the crowds and the sheep. And
Legit, the sheep override the roads.
yeah, I'm not going to hit a sheep going 20 miles an
Unless
hour.
you want,
Surprise.
unless you want roast.
Yeah. Sure.
I've already admitted to being weird, and you've said yes, you're weird.
I've noticed that, so it's fine.
Do you ever get bored of like looking at castles around the corner?
I don't look at castles.
You don't
ever.
look at and like they're just part of the landscape, and you don't notice them anymore when you're home.
Yeah, like it's actually pretty cool because we have our main castle in the middle of our city. So like if you were to go downtown Seattle, in the middle of that would be a huge castle that they haven't torn down, that they've built up a little bit, which is beautiful, like truly beautiful. But when you've gone there like 10,000 times when you were a kid,
So it's like the Space Needle for us.
I mean, it
We're
doesn't.
like,
I've
never
never
going-
been up there in
What?
5 years. Yeah, no, never.
Didn't you guys? I thought you guys did a photo shoot up there.
A kit reveal?
Kit reveal
Yeah,
up
no,
there.
I wasn't there.
Oh.
She wasn't there for it. Probably
No.
in Melbourne.
Yeah. Somewhere. Frankfurt, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh, that's sad.
I did a
I
tiny
love.
trip to like rural Italy,
Oh.
where like 2 weeks. My best friend when I was in the army married an Italian, and she was from a place like 45 minutes north of Rome. And it had the castle downtown kind of thing, and she's like, I only go here when people visit.
Was it Siena?
No, it was Bracciano, that's where Tom and Kate got married.
Oh, okay.
Um,
It's so true.
but literally the only people that go there are the tourists, and like Italy has princes and princesses from when they were a royal, and it's like hereditary. But all they have is basically like the castle now. They
Yeah.
have no other property, and
Yeah.
so they make money off of tour groups. I thought it was cool because I'm weird, and it was really cool when Tom and Kate got married because I'm like, it's on like the front page of People magazine. I'm like, oh, I was there. Weird. Okay, yeah.
Susie
We're
had
at
a-
that point where I go so far off tangent, nobody else knows
No,
what
we're
to
in
say.
Susie had
time,
a.
so thank you for
No, of
humoring
course.
us right now.
Yeah, thank
Of
you very
course.
much.
No,
I warned you for 90 minutes, and we are so far past.
I'm fine if you're fine.
Yeah.
I want to ask a question that Susie asked earlier, much earlier. She asked, "What tricks can we steal from you to recover from injuries so quickly? And is the only trick to be part dragon?"
It's a great question.
What did you do to heal so quickly?
Yeah, I know I do heal quickly. I don't know why. I think, to be honest, what it is, I'm very aggressive with my rehabilitation. And It's not that I like to push it. That's not what it is, because you can't do that with rehabilitation. But I always try and actively test what my body can do and what it can't do. So rather than wait, say you can't walk for 2 weeks, like you might actually be able to walk a little bit sooner than that. It's just the precaution is 2 weeks. But you might actually be able to walk in 7 days. And so with me, it's more of I always go off what my symptoms tell me. I don't go off of scans. I don't go off... I do go off pain, but I mean, there's pain and then there's like, okay, my body's telling me no, but there's pain as in like there's stiffness, there's, an inflammatory situation, which is pain, but it's
not the stop sign, it's the yield sign.
It's good pain. It's
But it's
healing.
you know your body.
Right.
Exactly.
Kind of thing. Okay.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, when I broke my leg last year and it was like, you're not supposed to walk for 4 weeks, I was like, what? That's just ridiculous. So, I was actively trying to see at what point my body was okay with walking or with a little bit of body impact, and the reality of it is it was far earlier than 4 weeks. But if you were somebody else who would just genuinely listen to do not do anything for 4 weeks, you'd be out for 12.
Right.
Whereas if you just go, okay, what's my body saying? Because as athletes, you're so strong and your muscles are so strong that they take a lot of the impact anyway, that you have to be a lot smarter with what you do. And so for me, I go off my symptoms rather than what the medical books say,
Right.
because everybody's so different. And I don't want to ever be in a category of a statistic that was probably done about 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Because we've evolved since then.
Do
You also tend to, if the injury report is 4 to 8 weeks, anybody who follows the rain now, if it's Jess, they're like 3 or 4 weeks.
3.
Like we've started, like there's Fishlock time now on injuries.
Is that the same? Would you say you're the same that way as you were 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago? You have the same
No.
way of approaching that, or no?
No, I think the thing that changed for me was I met Nick, our new S&C coach, who now is the head of performance at the Rain. I met him in Australia. He was working with City. And in the semi-final, I did a grade 2 hamstring tear of my hamstring in 2 places. I did a high up at the attachment and then really low down in my hamstring belly. And I was supposed to be out for 8 weeks at least because hamstrings are awful. And Nick did this really aggressive approach that was symptom-based rather than report-based. And within 5 days, and it was only 5 days between the semi-final and the final, he got me on the pitch. And I played the final that we won 6-0 2 years ago. I played 85 minutes and came off, no extra injuries done to my hamstring. The only thing I couldn't do was full sprint, which was fine. I didn't really need to do that at that point in Australia. And I played great, and everything was fine. And then I realized that reports and medical advice is truly just advice, and it's up to you to understand how your body is working and how your body is feeling. And if you truly want to get back, then you will put that into play and use your brain and figure out what you're feeling and what that means, and you could probably get back.
Did you have a thought?
No, I'm just really impressed by that injury recovery.
Yeah, I was also. It was insane. It was funny because I got injured. I accepted that I was going to be out. I went up to a beach house in Australia. I drank a lot of whiskey. And
What
then
kind of whiskey?
I drank Scotch, actually, Glenfiddich. And then the next day, I went for a walk on the sand, and my hamstring just felt better. And then I went straight back to the club, and I went to Nick, and I was like, my hamstring feels better. So let's work on it.
So it's Glenfiddich.
I think it
Walks
is.
on the beach.
It's
Yeah.
It's absolutely a
Scotch?
state of relaxation. I think that's what it is. A state of absolute relaxation where your body can just go.
You let your body fix itself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's like a
So if anyone gets really,
That story was super fun because for a second we were like, and then I went to the club. Which club? Because all of us should go there.
What's your superpower? Says Fishlock is I heal fast.
I do. I also do have dragon blood.
There we go.
That actually came
There
up
we go.
literally 2 messages ago.
Yes,
Dragon
Dragon
blood.
blood.
It's
So,
true.
do you watch Game of Thrones?
I do.
Who's your favorite dragon?
I love the one that I don't know who it is. I love the one that came and picked up.
Wait, I haven't watched the episode yet.
you went in.
Just keep talking. I'm just.
No, I love the one that came a few seasons ago, and when what's her name?
Daenerys.
Daenerys.
Yeah.
Got like
the mother of dragons.
got like taken away, and it broke free and came and saved her from everything.
Drogon. I
Drogon.
believe it was.
Oh.
Yeah. Which
Yeah.
is an interesting
you-
name for dragon.
Did you see the Reign change at least their Twitter logo to
The Game of
Game of
Thrones
Thrones
theme.
Oh, really? No.
Yeah, they've been doing a switch like about every week or so. They did a Starbucks themed one. They did a Supersonics one, and now it's a Game of Thrones.
I mean, you gotta love Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
It's pretty special.
So, someone asked. You didn't ask this while I was away, I don't think. Do you have a restaurant or brewery recommendation in Melbourne?
I do, actually. I don't know if there's a place down on Elliott Avenue called Cider 6.
Cider 6?
Cider 6.
'Kay.
It's either called Cider 6 or 6 Cider,
Okay.
or something like that. It's down on Elliott, just
Okay.
on Queen Anne, I think.
In here.
oh
Yeah?
We were asking in Melbourne, but we'll take that.
Oh, sorry.
No,
We'll
that's-
take that.
I thought you
since I
said
don't know that
Seattle.
one, so now I want to go to it.
there's a new place.
Yeah.
On
sorry.
Elliott. Write it down. Cider 6.
I know where that is.
It's
Yeah.
right. It has a really cool bar area. It does fantastic food. It has like flavored cider and then beer, and then it obviously does whiskey, which is my favorite, and whatever else. And then outside has a patio just on the rail tracks. It truly is like one of the nicest bars I've been to in Seattle, and it's a little bit out of the way.
Okay.
So, you can have a choice then of whether you're going to stagger to downtown or whether you're going to get an Uber home.
No one has ever done that.
That's
That's
your
got like
decision.
a metal
Number
fence
6
kind of
cider?
around the
Number 6
the parking
cider.
lot. Like
Yeah.
it's fenced
Yeah,
off,
number
and
6,
it's got a
Jacob.
couple.
I think
yeah.
it's number 6 cider. Yeah.
Near Holy Mountain where Mercer hits 15.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
It's
Yeah.
my little hideout, which I've just told everyone.
Now it's-
so it's fine.
So we'll see you there tomorrow.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
I do spend a lot of time there, actually, believe it or not.
So Dave talked a little bit about ink and like culture and like tattoos. What's something kind of fun and special and interesting about Jess Fishlock that maybe we don't know that
What
you could
haven't
have
we
told
gotten to?
Yeah, what did we not get to? What's just super fun and interesting that you like sharing with people or people think is really cool about you that maybe we don't know?
I don't know. I guess something that I guess I never talk about is that obviously I do talk about I love my family, but I have 2 adorable nephews that I love, and I want kids obviously eventually, and my sister again has just found out that she's pregnant again, but she has this baby, this little ginger baby that is the most adorable thing in the world. And I think what many people, I guess, don't really know about me is that I do love kids, and and especially my family and my nephews are probably the most important people in my life, and it pains me to be so far away from them, because he's like 1, he's just turned 1, and he's like, you know, they're like this big, and then they like become this big so fast. And what pains me the most is that I'm never going to be there for any of his initial growth.
You see them once or twice a year, basically,
yeah,
right?
pretty much. It's different in a campaign. If there's a Welsh campaign, then
That gets you home a little.
It gets me home a little. So I pray for it, right? Like I pray for a
Let's
Welsh
keep
campaign.
winning so I can see my family.
Let's keep
I'd like
going.
to visit with the fam.
I would like to see my babies. Yeah.
Because your Instagram is like 50% baller travel, 50% kids doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
So that's super fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It is something that that is I love and I hate at the same time, because I don't get to see it. You know, I miss the growth of my nephews, and you know, my other nephew is like 13 now, so he's at a different part of his life, which I want to be there for. And then my other nephew is 1, and he's adorable, and I want to be there for that too. But I think it's one thing that I never talk about and is never there, and no one really gets. But it's probably one of the hardest things.
We'll keep it between us and the internet.
It's one of the
No one
hardest
knows.
things, I think, for me to deal with.
One of the messages that we're supposed to give tonight is that Jenny Jeffries says hello. Did I ruin it? I typically ruin everything. That was supposed to be off camera later.
Okay. But
She doesn't say.
Being as we've overran.
Just back up the internet. No one will notice.
Okay.
I've got a rewind button.
I'll
on
save that for later.
the stream.
I thought you were scared.
So other than hanging out with us in Renton on Mondays, I only ask you questions that make you laugh while you're drinking, which is
It's
amazing.
true, so I have like these hamster cheeks.
So we'll try and wrap it up soon, hopefully, maybe. No, but
We are an hour
What are your
late.
two or three favorite things to do in Seattle?
Oh, wow.
And they could be anything.
I love going on a boat. I'm always on a boat
'Kay.
on the lake. I love it. I do love going out for drinks in Seattle. I think it's a great place to hang out. And one of my favorite brunch places is Lost Lakes in Capitol Hill. It is beautiful. And they do great food. And I like to read. So often I go to the Elliott bookstore that's on Capitol Hill too.
Yeah.
So it's pretty much what I do. And then any other time I'm just at home with the kids and
It's a very Seattle
life.
list.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be on the water. I want to be
Boats,
out
boats,
eating
brunch.
and drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Done.
I like to read books. Like, it's like, okay, yeah.
Okay.
We've got a question from the audience. What style
Mm-hmm.
of book do you like
Other than J.K. Rowling.
other than J.K.?
I have read all of the books that Karen Slaughter has ever written. So I always wait for her new releases to come out. I like Lee Childs too. I did used to like James Patterson, but I kind of went off that a little bit. And right now I read a lot of true crime. I just read actually the story of the Angel of Death. The whole story of how that guy managed to do what he did was truly staggering. Like, if people like that stuff, I would definitely read that book. It was phenomenal. I was like, read it within a day. It was. Sorry?
And Rule.
And Rule. Oh. Seattle. Oh, okay. I'll read some of that for sure. Okay. Green River Killer?
Yep.
Okay, for sure. Okay.
Also,
I'll be okay. Is it
Everyone's excited about the local
Yeah.
killer.
what, true crime. Yay!
is that true crime?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Have you read
It's basically South King County and
Okay, I'll read
Yeah.
that for sure. Thank you. That's
south
great.
of Starfire, essentially.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you
Perfect.
read Ghost in the White City?
No.
Oh, that's a great book. It's about the Chicago World's Fair and one of the first serial killers that actually took place during
Wait, what's
that
it
time.
called?
Ghost in the White City.
Ghost of the White
It's
City.
fantastic.
Okay, I'll read that one too. This is brilliant. It's great for me.
So,
Is it Devil in the White City? Devil
No.
in the White City. Devil
Devil
in
in
the
the
White,
White
City.
City.
It's called. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, I think that we're a little raging at the
Rage-
tables right now.
About books,
just
literature.
about books.
It's lit. Richer.
So Sunday,
Adam's well into
next
drinks.
Sunday the 13th. When did it get to be August? By
Yeah.
the way,
I know.
so Sunday the 13th, 6 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
Memorial.
Yes.
Your fine friends from North Carolina are coming to town, and you got payback on your
Correct.
mind,
Correct.
right? So we need everybody to come out to that. But I know Dave asked earlier, like other things you think people should do, things you're passionate about, things that you would love us to help get the word out about. Anything
All of
else
us
that's
should bring a
important to you?
friend.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Bring a friend.
Everybody should bring a friend. And yeah, I think, like I said earlier, that
Join Royal Guard.
join the Royal Guard, make some noise, and just let's get the community together and make sure that that the Sounders and the Rain are on an even playing field, and just from a supporter's perspective, like we really have to get our attendance higher so we can keep pushing for the right things and pushing for the way that the girls should be treated, and that can only possibly happen through attendance, because attendance means revenue, and that's how life works. So that's probably the only thing that I would say.
Also, Royal Guard gets smoke. So for
It's
all of those
true. It's
amazing
Perfect.
goals,
And there's a beer garden now
and
too.
there's a beer guard. Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, you have everything in one spot.
It's unfortunate you have to go outside and have a beer and then come back in and get smoked.
It's better to have the beer than not have the beer.
You
though,
don't
which is-
have to do that now.
You can.
With this
There's
beer
a
in?
beer garden by the side of the pitch.
Yeah.
But I don't think
You
you
can see.
smoke and the beer.
No, you can't
No,
do
no,
smoke
you
and the
can't.
beer at the same time, but you can watch the game and have a beer now.
No,
Oh,
but you
then
can
that's
have a
perfect.
beer watching the game and single to somebody in the Royal Guard to do smoke
Wonderful.
at that time.
I
Because
know
there's
people
internet,
who could do
You
that.
do
and
know
we
a
can
few.
do a lot more than that on the internet.
This is amazing.
When Tom gets a beer, the Royal Guard lets off a smoke flare.
You can get a sandwich. Stop talking. Anyway, so this is about karaoke. Oh no, that was literally the last question I had in my head.
Okay, good.
So if you were to stay and do karaoke, you don't have to. What would your song be?
My song would probably be.
Hearing the disaster that has been karaoke
I mean,
here tonight.
It's pretty awful.
yeah.
It would probably be Tina Turner, We Don't Need Another Hero.
Okay.
But I am not going to sing karaoke.
That's okay. I'll have Tom do it.
Okay, perfect.
Great.
That's perfect.
Anyway,
You know it.
so this has been super wonderful. Thank you for joining us.
No, thank you.
For
Thank you
a
for
really
inviting
long
me.
time.
Yeah, thanks for staying.
No,
Well
thank
past
you
really long.
for inviting me. This has been a lot of fun. I really appreciate it. And thank you for my bit burgers.
Oh, yeah.
They were great.
Water.
My water,
Yeah.
sorry.
They're great.
My water.
Yeah, if Laura asked, it was only water.
Yeah. If Laura does that.
Thanks
Which she
everybody
won't.
for showing up here tonight. This has been super fun.
Yes,
So-
thank you everybody for coming out. I really appreciate you coming out. Thank you so much.
So we have a fun weekend. We have Sounders Saturday at 1, Rain Sunday at 6, SonarFeed next Monday at 7:30.
Who
So
you got
be at
next
all
week?
of those things.
Who have you got next week?
You.
New host.
I mean, we fired a second producer, so if you want to like hang out and just
That's
drink
okay.
beers and like plug stuff in, you could do that.
It doesn't even have to work.
Well, nothing needed. Well, it didn't work earlier, did it?
Anyway, thank you, Jess
No,
Fishlock.
of course.
At Jess Fishlock on the Twitters and the Instagrams, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah?
Might
So-
even be more frequent on the gram.
Yep, on the gram.
Like,
Yeah,
you
maybe.
update that a little bit.
I do.
So
do.
thank you again for coming out.
Of course.
Thanks
Okay.
to everybody
Here we
for
go.
being here tonight.
Very fun.
Thanks
Thank
to
you
Adam
so
for
much.
somewhat keeping us on the internet.
Yeah, and I'm going to close with something that Lickett made earlier tonight.
Oh, lick it.
Ready? Here we go. There it is. Jess Fishlock.
That's pretty cool.
It's just a Lickett gif. All right.
You made a gift.
Everybody say goodnight.
Good night.